Good afternoon, board. I'm here for several matters today. I will begin with matter number 1, Appeal HA 2020-001219. The city did send in a letter, which the petitioner did agree to. We are requesting that this matter be transferred to ZBA. It is primarily concerns a zoning issue, and I think that that is the best and most appropriate forum, which the petitioner did agree to. So we would just ask that this matter be dismissed without prejudice so that the appellant can file in ZBA, that it be transferred within 30 days and the petitioner contacts ZBA, which I think he has already done.
So you're saying you have can you submit to the administrative staff whatever agreement you have?
I believe Miss Alford was CC'd on all of those emails. I can resend them.
Let me check.
Just check. This case appeal number HA 2020-001219.
Correct. Yes, and Miss Sunkett, who is the zoning board administrator, the executive director of ZBA, she sent her the acceptance of this transfer yesterday at 4:21, and I do see Miss Alford is on that email.
Yes, for the record, I do have it.
Mr. Jefferson, do we need to vote, or is that just because we've been requested to dismiss without prejudice?
Yeah, I think we can withdraw it without prejudice.
Okay. So please mark the record as withdrawn without prejudice. All right, Ms. Curley, next matter.
Sure. Next matter is number 9. That is appeal HA 2021-003394. That LLC is represented by Zen Jin, and I apologize. There's so many people I don't see if he's here today. But that is a city affirm with a 30-day stay of enforcement.
Well, Mr. Chin, are you here? If you can unmute yourself, I think we'd like to get him to confirm that agreement.
I don't think he's here.
Okay, well then let's hold it.
We can move on. Yeah.
And yes.
If he pops up, I'll let you know. Number 19, that is HA 2022-001959. And I am standing in for our revenue attorney, Stephanie Hyman. That's HEIMANN, and that is moot.
This is the commercial activity license for 700 South 4th Street.
Correct.
Hello. I'm just.
Someone speaking regarding this matter? This is R&I Real Estate LLC, HA 2022-001959. Is there someone here regarding that appeal? If so, unmute yourself and speak.
I think he was trying to talk on the last matter, actually.
Okay.
And
He's talking now.
He is, and he's muted again.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Would you
Okay.
identify yourself, sir?
Al Klish Trucking. I missed the whole thing because I'm new at this and I never did this before. So I just learning here. So, this is about the idling.
No,
Sir, are you here with respect to a property at 1900 Haynes Street?
No, I'm
no,
here.
he's number 4, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
That's
Mr. Pincus, he's number
1900
4.
Haynes Street. Number 4 says the property is 1900 Haynes Street.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Zin is in the waiting room. He just came in, so I'll bring him in.
Okay, well, we'll get to your case when we call it, sir.
okay, thank you.
All All right, so who's the next person, please, that you're gonna bring in? The
Mr.
gentleman
Jen, Mr. Jen is here.
for number 9.
So he
Mr.
is
Zen?
here.
Yes. Mr. Jen?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your case number HA 2021-003394, Yona Construction LLC, has been called. The city is representing that there's an agreement that the city's violation notice should be affirmed and a 30-day stay of enforcement. Is that your understanding?
Yes,
So you accept that and agreed in behalf of Yona Construction LLC, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, very good. Anything else with respect to this appeal?
No, none at this time. Thank you.
Okay, you have any other cases pending here today, sir?
No,
Very good. Thank you for appearing.
But we would just
Thank
ask
you.
the board vote, the board just needs to vote to, affirm.
We
Thank you.
can do that.
Thank you.
Let me ask the board for the vote. I'll vote first. A city affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
City
City
affirmed 30, I'm sorry, Mr. Tennant, I'm sorry.
Quite all right. City affirmed 30-day state of enforcement. Ms. Penn, thank you.
City affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Ms. Curley, we're still going through your list.
All right, moving back to number 19. As I indicated, that matter should be marked as moot. I believe Stephen Pollock represents the petitioner, who I think I saw.
Mr. Pollock, are you here? Sir? Well, let's go on then.
And on that matter, I do know that Revenue submitted a letter with that Mr. Pollock was a part of to the board, to Ms. Alford, so indicating that this matter would be marked as moot.
Okay.
Moving on,
I don't think we need to do anything for the record if it's marked. Is that equivalent of being withdrawn, I suppose?
It's moot. That's,
Okay, very good.
moving on to my last matter that is resolved is matter number 34. That is HA 2022-002959. The cease at 36 Apsley Street. That LLC is represented by Michael Hinderleader, which I do see here. And for that matter, we would ask for a city affirm with a 45-day stay of enforcement.
Okay, the attorney you said is whom?
Christopher
Sorry,
Hinderleader, I think I said it right.
Hinderleiter,
Mr.
but
Oh,
close
Mr.
enough.
Hinderleiter, you're not listed in the documents, so let me write that down. Mr. Hinderleiter, is that your understanding as well for your client?
That's correct.
City affirmed with
correct,
a 45-day stay of enforcement?
Yes,
Very good. I'll ask the board to vote. My vote will be city affirmed 45-day stay of enforcement.
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 Very good. All right. And before we go on to, this is your list for the moment, Ms. Curley?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Before we go on, I guess I should have the board members all introduce themselves. I believe they have, as a matter of fact. Okay. The next city attorney that I see is, do I see another city attorney? Miss Curry looks to be the next one I see.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Lauren Curry on behalf of the city of Philadelphia. I have 3 matters that can be marked moot. The first is number 22 on the list. That's number HA 2022-001327. And that's for 1949 Bonnet Street. or Bunitz. Is anyone here for that matter? Not sure. Okay. Okay, so that is moot.
Very good.
And the second one,
We'll note the record moot for HA 2022-001327.
thank you. And number 23, number HA 2022-001395 for 4803 Regent Street. That is moot, although I saw a note that the petitioner had withdrawn it, possibly.
It's noted in our list as withdrawn. But
Yeah.
if it's
Okay.
moot and withdrawn, same result.
Yes.
For HA 2022-001395, 4803 Regent Street.
Thank you. And the final one is number 24 on the list, appeal number HA 2022-001729. This is 4733 Salem Street, and that is also moot. I don't know if anyone's here for that.
40,
I'm here for that.
when you say may I, would you please identify yourself?
Gil
40?
Perez, the owner of the property.
All right, the city is reporting that the violation is no longer effective.
However, the issuance of the violation is definitely at issue before this tribunal. I seek a final determination of the city so that I can appeal to the state court. What happened here was
No,
really
wait
inappropriate.
a moment, sir. We're just trying to get resolved the administrative status of the matter. If in fact we're going to hear your case and hear your argument, we'll call you in the order that it's listed. Okay, sir? All right, so I appreciate.
Are you currently seeking to dismiss this matter from the docket today?
City has represented that the appeal is no longer in effect, that the violation is no longer in effect. If you intend to dispute any of the administrative determination, when we go through the list, we'll call your case. You're welcome to stay, and when we get to your case, we'll ask to hear from you.
Board members, I have this marked as moot, and that means that there is nothing that this board can resolve at this hearing. That means that the issue in question was already taken care of. There's just nothing further like that this board can do.
Are you still speaking about this particular summons that I'm here on?
Where
Yes,
the
I am.
city is saying it does not have a violation outstanding against your property, sir.
I understand that, but this is an error that was conducted by the city of Philadelphia. It's capable of repetition while evading review, and I seek to have a final administrative decision from this body. This is the appellate review that I am entitled to administratively as a result of the issuance of a ticket by the city of Philadelphia, and I must come to this body and receive a final determination before I go to the courts.
Well,
What has happened here is unacceptable.
yes, sir. So what we'll do is when we go through the list of cases, we'll get to your case and we'll call you in the proper order, and you'll have an opportunity to make your position known. The city's position is that there is no longer a violation against your property, and under the circumstances, this is not a matter that the board can render a decision. So, but I don't want to deprive you of an opportunity to speak to the matter. So when we get to your case on the list, your case is listed as number 302324. We'll call you, okay?
And I would
Who is
just
maintaining the record so that I can order a copy of the transcript?
Sir, when we get through and get to the matter, you'll have an opportunity to make known your concerns, okay?
Okay, but this portion of the
Mr. Chair,
transcript is available as
Chair,
well.
can we get a determination from Ed, from Mr.
Would you please
Jefferson?
mute your computer
Me?
until your case is called? Yes, would you please mute your computer? Thank you.
okay, and
Mr.
for the
Chair,
record,
can I get a determination about that from Mr. Jefferson?
Sure, but I think, as I said, we don't want to deprive Mr. Perez of an opportunity to speak. The city's position is that there is nothing for us to hear today.
Yes, and for the record, I would have to object to the case going forward today because this has already been repaired and there's nothing further for this board to decide.
I understand. I don't
Au
want to.
contraire.
Sir, could you wait until you're called? Thank you. I don't want to deprive Mr. Perez of an opportunity to say something to the board. Okay, but I understand the city's position.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Pincus,
okay, Mr. Washington,
Pardon me?
are we okay?
I mean, not really. You know, I would like to get a real determination on this because if the city is not putting on a case,
There
so
will
there
be a-
shouldn't be anything happening at number, what is that? Is it 23? So
20.
nothing happened at that time. And if nothing's going to happen in that, I'm just trying to get clarity, that's all.
I
I
understand.
think I think the question might be, why is the matter moot? Is it moot because the owner corrected the violation, or is it moot for some other reason?
It is
In that the violation was maybe issued in error and the city chose to withdraw the violation and therefore it's moot. But I think that if that's the appellant's concern, he seems to be suggesting that that might be the issue.
Sure. So in this case, this is moot because it was repaired. Our inspector went back out there, found internal repairs were made to the broken pipe. It was our notice that we issued was satisfied. So there's nothing further for the property owner to do.
And may I ask, Ms. Curry, do you know who made the repairs?
I have to state that this is being
Mr. Perez,
discussed
you have
without
to-
me
you have to
having
re-
an opportunity to
Mr.
participate.
Perez, you
Mr.
will have
Perez,
an
you're going to be,
opportunity.
yeah.
So our system doesn't say who necessarily made the repairs to this property, but our inspector goes out and finds that repairs have been made. So that
Thank
means our notice is satisfied.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, so I don't want to deprive Mr. Perez of an opportunity to speak and be heard. But
Mr. Perez's matter has already been prejudiced before this board by somebody who has spoken before the board, having made no oath of any veracity.
Sir,
And
sir,
Mr.
you're out
Perez
of
is
order.
being denied.
Sir, you are out of order. We are trying to administratively dispose of matters. If you continue to interrupt, we'll then decide the matter without having to hear from you. So in the meantime, if you will wait, we will give you an opportunity to speak. The city has explained its position to us. We have requested that they explain it, and they've done it. So now I would like to proceed with the list of cases from the other attorneys and deal with matters administratively. So thank you.
Mr. Pincus, Jake Griffin, if I may, I just wanted to circle back. I have 3 matters with Ms. Curley. I think she only discussed the resolved matters, but I do have 3 with her. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Ms. Curley, are these the matters that have been resolved? And there are other matters you will be presenting today?
No, those matters are contested.
Okay, fine. Very good. All right, Ms. Curry, is there anything further from the list of cases that you have?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. The next attorney from the city I see is Ms. Reinhardt.
Good afternoon, board. I have one matter that I believe was withdrawn by the appellant, number 11. I have not had any contact with him, however. It looks like the board had contact with him in June.
That is
Well-
correct. It has been withdrawn.
It's noted on our file as withdrawn. I happen to have had some experience with Mr. Mermelstein, and I'm sure if he intended to be here, he would be at the hearing today.
Excellent. Thank you. My only other administrative matter is number 33. The city believes that this should more properly be heard before the Board of Building Standards. I'm not sure if this is something that you would like to deal with administratively or when called on the list.
No, I think we'd like to move it off the list right now. It's my understanding as well that there had been a request made to transfer this to the Board of Building Standards. Is there someone in attendance for the appellant, or is this something that's already been agreed to between you and the city? Between you and the appellant,
I believe that there is someone here for the owner, but I was not able to get a response from them previously. So if they would agree to it, we will be able to move this quickly, hopefully.
Case number HA 2022-0012C64. The appellant is Gwendolyn Adorno. The address is 1906 North Leafcott Street. Is there someone here for that case?
I, Gwendolyn Adorno, is attending.
Do you understand the city has asked that the matter be transferred over and heard by the Board of Building Standards?
Yes.
You agree to do that?
Yes, sir.
Very good. We'll note our files accordingly.
Thank you so much.
If I
Thank you.
could also make the request, the city is specifically asking for the appeal here to be withdrawn by agreement in order to give 30 days for the appeal to be filed with the Board of Building Standards, just so that we will not contest it to be untimely at that time. And I was hoping that the board would vote in agreement as well.
It's being withdrawn by agreement and without prejudice because I believe that there could be still an appeal taken at a later date from the Board of Building Standards. Is that possible? Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I don't know that the board needs to vote on this. Mr. Jefferson?
No, the board does not need to vote as long as the record is clear with respect to the withdrawal without prejudice due to the transfer to the Board of Building Standards.
All right, so the record will note that it's been withdrawn by agreement and it's being withdrawn without prejudice.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is case number HA 2022-001264. Thank you. The next counsel I see is Ms. Costello.
Good afternoon, board. I have new matters that have been resolved today. I have case number 14 on the list. That's HA 2021-003557. I think I pronounced his name Abduvakab Alambayev. And I do not believe he is present on the Zoom, but we did come to an agreement and this matter is now moot complied.
Is Mr. Alim Bayev present or someone representing him? Alim Bayev, the property at 9808 Bustleton Avenue. Is there someone present? Well, I don't hear him, but you're saying the case is moot?
It is, it's moot complied.
Moot complied. We'll note that on the record. Thank you.
And I also have number 18, that's HA 2021-005440, Janice Gabadon. And I believe that that case has been withdrawn by the appellant.
We've been advised of that administratively as well.
Yes, I have been advised of that by Ms. Alford.
Is there anyone here today for case number HA 2021-005440, 2139 South 57th Street? Okay. We'll mark the file withdrawn. Is that it from you?
I have number 21, that's HA 2022-002440, Joseph Carosa, and that matter is also moot complied.
Okay, is there anyone here for HA 2022-002440, 2313 South Hutchison Street? Not hearing from anyone, we'll mark the case moot complied.
And I have number 26, that's HA 2021-001010. This matter is moot. The revocation letter has been withdrawn and they have received their tobacco retailer's license for 2022.
Okay, is there anyone here for case number HA 2021-001010, 2351 Orthodox Street? Not hearing from anyone, we'll still mark the file moot.
No, I'm sorry, this matter's moot.
Moot, not
Yeah.
complied, moot.
Yes.
Okay,
Hello, actually, I'm here for 2350 for the tobacco.
I'm sorry, you're not coming through at least I'm not hearing you clearly. Are you here for the case at 2351 Orthodox Street?
Yes, correct. Mhm.
Could you put yourself in front of your screen so we can see you?
Oh, okay. Now can you see me now?
No, I don't see you at all.
Okay.
Just a moment. Why, sir, are you the operator of the business at that address, 2351?
Yes, correct. Mhm.
The city is telling us that the matter is no longer, has been, I don't know whether it's complied, but it's no longer a matter for consideration by this board. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Fine, we'll enter it on the list as moot, and your case you're dismissed for the afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can the court reporter just get the owner's name, please?
Mr. Zhu, I guess, could you say your name, please, for the record?
Yes, ZXU.
Ling Wanzhou?
Yes, correct. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Any other cases?
Those are my only resolved matters for today.
Very good. I think the next attorney I see on my screen is Mr. Cohen. Are you with us, Jeffrey Cohen?
Oh, sorry, members of the board, chair, I didn't quite hear you. I only have one matter on today's list, number 3, HA 2021-000184. Mr. Jared Klein is here as well to present an agreement to the board.
If there's an agreement, why don't we say what that is and be able to move on? Good afternoon, Mr. Klein.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The agreement was city affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
Is that your understanding, Mr. Cohen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'll ask the board to vote. City affirmed. My vote is city affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement on matter number HA 2021-000184, 4253 Sansom Street.
City affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 30-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Very
members of
good,
the board.
sir. So there's a lot of work happening on the corner of Cliveden and Lincoln Drive. It's looking much better. Just thought I'd pass that on.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Is that it, Mr. Cohen?
Yes, those are all my matters today. Thank you.
Okay. Next attorney looks to me to be Jane Wang.
Good afternoon. I am here representing AMS on matters number 4 and 5 regarding the Al Cliche Trucking Company, and those are contested.
I see. Our files indicate that the appellant is an LLC, and I believe Mr. Cliche said he was in the attendance and is new to computerized hearings. But the question is, if I'm correct, this is an LLC that is the appellant. Is that correct, Ms. Wang?
That is my understanding. I did make outreach last week to determine if an attorney had been retained, and I did not receive a response. So I would defer to the appellant.
Okay, am I saying your name correctly, by the way?
Ong? Yes.
Ong, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, what number was that?
This is case number Cases number 4 and 5, HA 2021-000374 and HA 2022-002453. The appellant is Al Cleach. It looks like with Cleach Trucking. I believe you're here, sir. Could you,
Yes.
could you
Yes, I am.
unmute?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, let me go find you. A moment.
The appellant is 12676. I don't believe he's entered a name.
Sir, your cases involve an LLC.
Correct.
Have you retained an attorney to represent you?
No, I'm just trying to do this by myself.
Well, unfortunately, sir, the rules of the Board of License and Inspection Review require that if there's a corporate entity involved, that entity must be represented by an attorney at the hearing. So we're not going to be able to hear your case today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to continue it. I suggest you get an attorney. You're required to have an attorney. That's not a suggestion.
No, I didn't know. I thought I could represent myself. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's written in the notice, the violation notice, somewhere in the print in the violation notice, it's written. You should get an attorney, and that attorney should get in touch with Ms. Hung, it's spelled W-A-N-G, at the City Law Department, and perhaps the matter can be discussed beforehand and addressed before a new hearing is scheduled.
Okay,
Okay, we're going to continue your case.
thank you.
All right,
And those are the only two matters that I am handling today. May I be excused?
if you may.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Inspector Robinson is also on the line. May he be excused as well?
He's here for these two cases. Yes, that
Yes.
is correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we still have the appellate for case number 33 online.
Ms. Adorno, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Well, you're welcome to observe the hearings, but your matter has been administratively resolved for this afternoon.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. I was just going over some stuff. I forgot to log off, but that's fine. I understand.
Okay, very good. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Washington. Have a good afternoon. The next attorney, I believe that I see, Mr. Reuter, is that correct? Not any rate, Mr. Reuter, you're here, so let's hear from you.
Hi, good afternoon. May it please the board, Leonard Reuter for the city of Philadelphia.
Good
Are you
afternoon.
okay? Yeah, sometimes there's sound problems. Wanted to make sure you could hear me. I'm only here on one case, as far as I know, which would be number 7 on your list, HA 2021-002499. I believe that's the only case. There were actually 4 separate appeals that were filed involving the same matter and the same address. I don't know if they're all, some of them I think were resolved, at least 1 or 2 was resolved previously. It's the city's position that all of the matters related to this demolition permit for 339 North 63rd Street, all appeals related to that are moot. And in fact, I think they were moot when the matter was first brought to the board.
Well, all right, we'll get to that because I saw Mr. Shermer among the attendees, so we'll call the case in order.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I already spoke to Mr. Johnson. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, my apologies. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I have 2 matters that are resolved for the board today. First, number 2 on the list, it is appeal number HA 2020-002700. It was an appeal by Thomas Joseph Holmes, LLC, related to the property at 1029 East Columbia Avenue for failure to have a vacant property license. I've been in contact with attorney Rachel Pritzker after we had a lengthy hearing at the prior listing before the board. We've agreed to ask the board to mark it as city affirmed with a 90-day stay of enforcement.
Is Ms. Pritzker in attendance?
I don't believe she was available for this, but
I'm
she has
here.
emailed the board numerous times.
She is
I'm
here.
You
Oh,
said
okay, she's
here.
here.
Is that your understanding, Ms. Pritzker, that you agree with the city to have the appeal affirmed with I'm sorry, how many days stay, sir?
90-day stay of enforcement.
With a 90-day stay of enforcement?
Yes, and we thank Mr. Johnson for working with us on this.
Very good. I would ask the board to vote to confirm city affirmed 90-day stay. That's my vote.
City affirmed 90-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 90-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 90-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you. Is there any other matters, Mr. Johnson? Are there? Any?
Yes. I also have what is listed as number 30 on today's list. It's appeal HA 2021-000621 regarding the contractor license for Catalyst Builders LLC. I've been in touch with the attorney for the appellant, Jeffrey M. Scaffaria, and he had emailed the board today intending to ask the board to mark the appeals as withdrawn. We have an agreement on the appeals of that contractor license and also a subsequent appeal that has yet to be listed. And we've come to a global resolution whereby all those appeals will be marked as withdrawn.
Is Mr. Scaffaria, if I'm saying that correctly, in attendance? Mr. Scaffaria? Jeffrey M. Scaffaria, sir, are you in attendance? All right, but the understanding that you're representing to us, Mr. Johnson, is that the appeal is being withdrawn.
That's correct. And he had emailed the board to that effect. And I'm looking at an email from I believe it was Friday. Or it was either Friday or Monday, but yes, they're going to be withdrawn. We have an agreement.
Ms. Alfred, did you receive any emails with respect to this matter?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll mark it as withdrawn.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ms. Alfred, is that one of the folks who needed an interpreter?
No.
All right, so the next attorney, I think there's Mr. Greenspan.
Yes, thank you, members of the board and chair. I am here filling in for Mr. James Kellett on a streets department violation. It's number 10, I believe, on your list. It's HA 2021-003400. Appellant is Mark Bass, and that can be marked as moot complied.
Mr. Bass, are you here? Is Mark Bass in attendance? All right, we'll accept the representation from Mr. Greenspan that if the matter is moot complied, case number HA 2021-03400.
Thank you. That concludes my business for today.
Very good, thank you. I think I next see Mr. Rulo.
Good afternoon, board members.
Yes, sir.
I have 4 cases today, and I can actually dispose with all of them administratively. Turning to the first one, which is number 6, appeal ending 2017, and I do believe that I see the appellant here, but that matter can be marked moot complied.
case number HA 2021-002017. Mr. McKay, is Richard McKay here or a representative?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Richard McCoy is here.
Do you understand the city said the matter can be marked moot? It complied, is that correct? Mr. Rulo,
That's correct. Moot complied.
are you in agreement with that? Mr. McKay?
Yeah, trying to understand. I can't really hear what you guys are saying. Did you say mood comply?
Yes, you heard it well enough.
And what
We're
does
gonna
that mean?
mark our file that the violation has been complied. And the matter is concluded.
And what does that mean?
What means that the city went out and inspected the property and no longer sees that there's a violation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And can the court reporter note for the record, Mr. McCoy, your last name is McKoy? I think he's gone.
You're right, I have on the phone.
Okay, you said yes, Mr. McCoy?
Yes, McKoy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, the matter is acted upon. You're dismissed for the afternoon, sir. Mr. Rulo, the next case?
The next case is number 12 on the list, appeal number HA 2021-003556. The appellant is in Osnel Decina, and I do not see them present here, but that matter can be marked moot complied as well.
All right, the case number is HA 2021-003556, Osnel Decina, 6321 Lawndale Street. Is there anyone present for this matter? Well, we'll mark it moot comply.
The next matter I have is number 16 on the list, appeal number HA 2021-004239. The appellant is a Brian Barabi, and the property address is 108 South 20th Street. That matter can also be marked moot complied.
Is there anyone here for case number HA 2021-004245? Mr. Enoch, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Brian Barabi at 108 South 20th Street. We'll mark the case moot complied.
And finally, I direct your attention to number 20 on the list, appeal number HA 2022-001971, a Lao Young King, and the property is 1029 Mount Vernon Street. That matter is moot, but it is because the violation was withdrawn against this appellant. So it is not moot complied, but the violation was withdrawn by the department against this appellant.
My file notes that there's been an interpreter called to come today for this case. Let me call the number HA 2022-001971. The name on the docket is Lao Young King. The property address is 1029 Mount Vernon Street. Is there anyone here? Is there an interpreter here? And is the appellant here?
It's a Mandarin interpreter.
And who is the interpreter? Could you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, hi, I am the Mandarin interpreter.
All right, well, the city is saying the matter is moot and has been withdrawn. And I've called the name, maybe you can call it once in Mandarin just to make sure if the appellant Lao Young King is present.
OK， 那请问这个 Lao Yang Ping 上诉者在吗？
Well, all right. right, so that person is not present. The city has said that the matter is moot and has been withdrawn by the city. We'll mark our file. We'll thank you for appearing today. No, nothing further is required.
Okay.
with that.
Okay,
just-
so is there anything else the interpreter can help you with, or may I be excused?
Is that the only case we have the Mandarin interpreter for, Ms. Alford? Just a moment, don't go away.
I'm sorry, somebody was at my door. What's your question, Mr. Pincus?
Is there any other case for which a Mandarin interpreter was required?
No, it's not, just that one.
Thank
Okay,
you very
so
much.
thank you for your service. Have a nice day. Okay, bye-bye.
Board Member Pincus, I just wanted to make sure we clarified for the record on that last one, that this has only been withdrawn against this appellant. The case itself has not been withdrawn in its entirety. I know that's technical, but I just wanted to make that clear for the purposes of the record.
What, is there still an appeal that's to be heard, or,
No, this is just, it is just withdrawn against this appellant.
okay, so there's
Is
still
there
an
another, is there
outstanding?
another appellant?
No, this is just, it is just this appellant who appealed the violation, and we've just withdrawn the violation case as to this appellant. I'm just making that clear because there's still an open case, but it involves someone who has not appealed. And I just wanted to make sure the record was clear that it's only being withdrawn as to this appellant. So the case does remain open, but again, there is no other appellant at this time.
So there's still a violation against the property, but this particular appellant is not the appropriate person to present.
That's correct.
All right. I've noted that in my file.
Great, thank you. And that concludes my business. May I please be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Am I Miss Skiles? Miss Skiles, I think I did not call you, Zach, and Ms. White. So
Good
let's see.
afternoon. I'm just observing today.
Okay, you're welcome to do so. Ms. White,
Good afternoon, Chair. I also am just observing.
very good.
Thank
Did I
you.
miss any other attorneys from the law department?
Yes,
did.
Nikia Clark on behalf
I'm
of the
sorry.
city of Philadelphia.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have 3 matters that are resolved. We can begin with number 8 on the list. HA 2021-003393. It's going to be Joseph Smith. We have an agreement on that case. Attorney Sean Ward is also present. We're going to be requesting a city affirmed with the stay of enforcement for 120 days. There's currently an appeal before a ZBA in the works.
Okay, Mr. Ward, I just saw your face a minute ago.
I'm here.
You're here, okay. Okay, there you are. Good afternoon, Mr. Ward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pincus, acting chair. I agree with the representations of the city. This is a city affirmed 120-day stay of enforcement.
You're gonna get it heard at the zoning board within 120 days?
I got my fingers crossed, Ralph.
Okay, very good. So the city, we will mark the file, city affirmed 120-day stay. That's case number 8, case number HA 2021-003393, 8575 Torresdale Avenue. My vote is city affirmed 120-day stay.
City affirmed 120-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 120-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed 120-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my business. May I be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Skiles, I think you said you had another matter or not?
Clark, and
Oh,
yes,
I'm sorry.
no worries. Number 13 on the list,
Yes.
HA 2021-003554. Ji Zhang is the appellant. That matter has been withdrawn.
Very good. Case number 13, HA 2021-0035554. Ji Zhang, 3339 Vista Street. Are you present? Is someone present regarding this property? Okay, we'll mark our files withdrawn. Anything further, Ms. Clark?
Number 25, HA 2021-000-968. Appellant is D Yang. There was a previous agreement on this case. That case should be marked settled. The agreement was also resent on Thursday of last week. So that case is actually settled and can be discontinued.
Well, I guess I'm not sure we mark it on our dockets as settled. Is it
City of Farm, there's an agreement active on this case.
Is it being withdrawn or is it an agreement?
The case can be withdrawn, yeah.
All right. Case number HA 2021-000-968. The Yang 5400 Spruce Street. Is there anyone present? We'll mark it as an agreement and withdrawn. Is that correct?
Yes, withdrawn per the agreement that was sent last Thursday.
Let's just make sure that the agreement is in the records of the administrator. Ms. Alford?
Yes, we have it.
Okay. All right, anything further, Ms. Clark?
No, that concludes my business.
Are there any other city attorneys that are present who I haven't heard from? That's good. All right. I believe that deals with all of the other, let me just make sure through my list. We have several cases involving an interpreter, and we have one other case, which I believe is case number 31, which was filed by Flores Rental Management LLC, case number HA 2022-002613. Is someone present for that case?
Myself,
Okay, you are, who are you, sir?
Irene Flores.
I see, okay. Is there a city attorney on this matter?
That is mine, sir. Caroline Curley for the city.
We have
I
no
just-
idea.
Before we proceed, Ms. Flores, our list indicates that the appellant is a limited liability company, LLC. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have an attorney representing you at this hearing today?
Honestly, no, I did not know that I was gonna have an attorney. I have somebody that try to upload and send the fire extinguisher to the inspector, and I submitted the appeal, but I do not have a lawyer. So if I do get an extension, it's submitted to the ZBA for the 2 units, and that's taking 6 months. So I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, but the first thing you need to do is we can't really hear the matter today because the rules for the Board of License and Inspection Review require that any LLC, which is what you are, a limited liability company, must have an attorney represent them. So you must, if you have a matter that's in front of the ZBA or you've appealed to the ZBA, and you have an attorney representing you, which you will for the hearing at the zoning board, that attorney should get in touch with Ms. Curley and discuss how best to proceed. Okay, but we can't hear the matter. We will mark it as continued.
What will be the new date?
And Mr. Pincus, this is Caroline Curley for the city. I did send an email twice to the email address that was attached to the petition, requesting that attorney information and advising or relaying that information for the board about the requirement for the city, as well as submitting the city's exhibits. So this does involve a cease. It does involve a property that is not properly zoned for the number of people are in it, and it does present some fire and safety issues for the department. So we would ask and this was an emergency hearing that the city did agree to, so we would just ask that this be expedited as soon as possible.
I guess the
And
question
for
is,
that, I also want
just
to
a
say,
moment, please, just a moment, Ms. Flores. The question is whether we should hear it under the circumstances that it's an emergency appeal. I don't know that we can do that without where a counsel is required.
We're fine for another date. We would just ask that that date be as soon as possible.
Is the cease in effect?
It is not.
Mr. Jefferson, do you have advice regarding how to best to proceed?
Well, in as much as the appellant was notified to have an attorney in the appeal, depending on the level of the emergency, the board would be within its discretion just to hear the basis upon which the city wishes to impose the cease sooner rather than later. However, if the city is willing to wait until the next listing, which is in 2 weeks, then the board can have it relisted for that date, and the appellant must appear with counsel.
City, thank you. Ms. Curley, are you willing to have the matter for 2 weeks?
Yes.
All right, Ms.
Mr.
Flores.
Chair, if I may, Mr. Chair, if I may, Ms. Curley,
Yes, sir.
can we at least get verification that the email that you sent, the email address you sent to is the one that Ms. Cordilla is using and receiving, please? Can we do that so that that won't be missed next time?
Ms. Flores,
yes,
would you, I'm going to ask Ms. Curley to confirm the email address that she's been communicating with, and would you confirm if that's the correct one or not? I don't know if you want to share it.
Yeah, can she just provide her email address so
Sure.
that it's included?
I believe you probably have Willie Viero, pero no lo ponemos en William Alcalde. WILLYVIERO @gmail. That's one of them.
Yeah, that's not the email that's on the appeal.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Curley, would you give her your email address so she can?
Yes, please.
With you?
So it's on the screen. It's my name, Caroline, CAROLINE, a dot, then my last name, CURLEY, @phila.gov.
Okay, I'll forward everything to you and we'll work on the lawyer to represent us. Thank you.
So the matter is marked continued.
Do you have the date for that new date or no?
2 weeks from, well, you'll get a notice from the administrative staff, but it's likely to be in 2 weeks.
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't miss it. Thank you.
Yes, it'll be August
All right.
23rd.
August 3rd? I mean, when?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So I believe that is all of the administrative matters, other than we now have several cases involving interpreters. So I'd like to get those, address those next, if that's possible. So the
So you want
first
me to-
one that I have that has an interpreter is case number 15, HA 2021-004032. Ms. Alfred, I'll let you.
You want me to read it on the record?
Yes, please.
This is number 15, appeal number HA-2021-004032. Appellant is Ana Pena Rodriguez for 2419 North Oriana Street.
Is there someone present for this case? Ana Pena Rodriguez, are you here? Who is the attorney for the city on this case?
Mr. Pincus, Mary Costello on behalf of the city of Philadelphia.
All right, let me try one more time. Is there let me ask, I believe there's an interpreter, a Spanish interpreter.
Yes, it
here.
is.
Yes, I'm here.
Would you identify yourself, please?
My name is Abraham, Spanish interpreter, ID number 7148.
Would you mind calling in Spanish to ask if this Ana Pina Rodriguez is present?
La señora Ana Peña Rodríguez se encuentra presente.
There's no one responding to my call or that of Abraham. Ms. Costello, what would you ask the board to do?
I would like the board to grant a city affirm for lack of appearance.
Okay, it is now 2:29 p.m. My vote is city affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirm
City
lack of
affirm
appearance.
non-appearance.
Apologies, Steve, go ahead.
Mr.
City-
Pettit, I just think I heard your voice. Yes,
City affirm non-appearance.
Thanks,
I
Steve.
just
City
I just
affirm
got here, Mr.
non-appearance.
Pincus.
City affirm lack of appearance. Good afternoon, Steve.
City affirm non-appearance.
you're muted.
City affirm non-appearance.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
would you please confirm that there was notice sent to the appellant for this appeal?
I would do so.
Thank you.
Ms. Alfred,
Yeah,
was notice sent
yes, it was.
and was it timely?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to those of you who did not notice. Mr. Pettit is a member of the board and is present. And again, I will repeat that the proceedings are being recorded and we have a court reporter present as well, Ms. Robb, who is making a stenographic record of everything that is being said. All right, the next matter that I have
Mr.
is.
Mr.
Yes.
Pincus, may I just ask that Mr. Gonzalez or Inspector Gonzalez be dismissed because that was the only matter that I had with him?
All right, so let me just confirm on the record, HA 2021-004-032, Ana Pina Rodriguez, 2419 North Oriana Street. City's vote is city affirmed non-appearance. Be marked on the record. Certainly, if there's an inspector here for this case, he may be dismissed.
Additionally, I had a Mr. Rodriguez here from the Philadelphia Land Bank because they are the owners of the property, and I would ask that he can be dismissed as well.
Now, who is this that you're asking to have dismissed? Is the last?
His name is Mr. Rodriguez, and he is the Senior Vice President of Land Management from the Philadelphia Land Bank. And he's the owner of they are the owner of the property, and I would like for him to be dismissed as well.
That's fine. He is not the same individual as the appellant.
He is not.
Okay. Fine.
Thank you.
And I would also ask, can the Spanish interpreter be dismissed? This was his only case.
Thank you, Abraham.
Okay, understood. Have an excellent day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case I have that involves an interpreter is cases 27, 28,
And 32. Mhm.
right? And that's, I believe, all the same interpreter. Is that correct?
That is
27,
correct.
28? And there's,
Let's make sure we have the interpreter here. We're looking for a Cambodian interpreter.
Did you pay?
is there a Cambodian interpreter present?
Did you pay for
Yes, he's raising his hand.
Yes, hello, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good.
it? One,
So let me call these cases, or actually let Ms. Alfred call.
Okay, we'll start with case number 27, appeal number HA-2021-002612. Appellant is 2708 Alex Inc. The address is 2708 West Allegheny Avenue, represented by Jake Griffin Esquire.
Mr. Griffin, I see you were here. Is your client here, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, thank you, sir. The clients are here, and if maybe I could clarify, I had spoken with Miss Curley earlier today on this interpreter issue. I then circled back to the client's case number 2612, an individual by the name of Pauline Lim actually will prefer to move forward in English. She thinks she can better perform in English. On 2613, the same with a gentleman by the name of Steve Tang. Although on 2614, a claimant, a woman by the name of Delaney Heng will absolutely need the services of that interpreter. So in circling back, the preference on two of those clients is to proceed in English. They feel that they will be able to understand the proceedings better. And I will respect their wishes on that. But on 2614, we will need that interpreter.
Well, since we've called the case and the intention is to deal with the interpreters who are present, is your client here for the case HA 2021-002614?
I saw her earlier. I'm assuming she may be. Perhaps the interpreter can call out for Delaney Hing.
All right, so let's do.
អ្នកស្រី Delaney Heng
ចា
មានវត្តមានទេបាទ
Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is case number 28 we're hearing presently, right?
អានេះជាសំណុំរឿងលេខ
I'd like Ms. Alfred to call the case first.
Okay, this is case number 28, appeal number HA-2021-002614. Delaney Heng, doing business as Moon Dragon Restaurant for 1933 West Hunting Park Avenue, represented by Jake Griffin Esquire.
Thank you.
All right, so first, before we proceed, I need to swear in the interpreter, and this is something that I haven't had experience doing, so I hope I get it right. Would you identify yourself, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Nathan Gerard. My interpreter, that's KHMER, ID number Y as in Yankee, T as in Thomas, 403.
Very good. And do you swear that the interpretation you will make today will be true to your ability, accurate as between the English and the Cambodian?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And could you swear in? Could you swear in Ms. Delaney Heng, I guess is the way pronounced?
Yeah.
And ask her to swear and affirm that the testimony she will give today will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
អញ្ចឹងអ្នកស្រីហៀងគាត់សួរថាតើអ្នកស្រីសបត់ថាអ្នកស្រីនឹងនិយាយការពិតទាំងអស់គ្មានអ្វីដែលមិនពិតទេ
Yeah.
Yes.
So the way we will proceed is to have the city present its case as the city speaks, city representative, which I believe is Ms. Curley. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll ask you to interpret what she's saying into Cambodian and confirm that that Ms. Heng has heard what you've said and understood it. And then anytime Ms. Heng responds or the attorney asks a question, we'll have you interpret it first and then hear from the client, if that's the order of things. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Want to explain that to Ms. Heng?
បាទអញ្ចឹងជាដំបូងអ្នកដែលតំណាងឲ្យទីក្រុង Philadelphia គាត់នឹងនិយាយមុនគាត់ជាមេធាវីរបស់ទីក្រុង Philadelphia អ្នកស្រី Curly ហើយគាត់នឹងសួរសំណួរហើយក៏ទុកពេលវេលាឲ្យលោកមេធាវី Jake Griffin គាត់និយាយបានហើយបន្ទាប់មកអ្នកស្រីអាចឆ្លើយបានបន្ទាប់ពីខ្ញុំបានបកប្រែហើយបន្ទាប់មកនៅពេលដែលអ្នកស្រីនិយាយជាភាសាខ្មែរសូមទុកពេលវេលាឲ្យខ្ញុំបកប្រែជាភាសាអង់គ្លេសឲ្យពួកគាត់អាចស្ដាប់បាននៅប្រសាសន៍ដែលអ្នកមានថ្ងៃនេះ
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, Ms. Curley, do you want to proceed?
Initially, it very clearly seems that there's someone with Miss Hang.
I'm
Because I
sorry,
hear-
would you repeat that, please?
Very clearly, there's someone with Miss Hang because I can hear another voice, but she's not speaking. So who is the person who is with?
I can clarify that and take care of that. That is Paulina Lim. She is associated with 2612. They are related. So if I can, Pauline, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you are not permitted to participate in this. If you want to still be in the same room, I guess that's okay, but you cannot say anything or do anything, and that has to go through the court here and the interpreter. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I
All right.
believe, Pauline, you are what, cousins or sisters or?
I'm older than her. I'm her cousin.
Okay.
She doesn't speak English. That's why she came to me.
But we
Gotcha.
have an interpreter
Yeah, I know.
if-
I understand.
So you're not unable to participate in this matter. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Curley?
Okay. And Mr. Gerard, if you need me to slow down, just like raise your hand, okay? The city's first witness on this matter will be Jody Wilkins. If Ms. Wilkins could unmute and appear.
បាទអញ្ចឹងសាក្សីរបស់ទីក្រុងទី1គឺ Jody Wilkins សូមអញ្ជើញ
I'm here.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wilkins. Can you identify yourself with your position with the Department of Health? Giving the interpreter time.
Okay.
Chair, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Jefferson.
the city witness need to be sworn in.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wilkins, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it will.
And I do believe I swore in Ms. Hang. Is that correct? I think so. Yes. Very good. Okay, proceed, Ms. Curley. Thank you, Mr. Jefferson.
Ms. Wilkins, can you describe your position with the Department of Health?
I'm a
sorry.
sanitary.
Yes, can you state your title? Sorry, that's what I asked.
I'm a sanitarian supervisor with the City of Philadelphia Health Department. My name is Jody Wilkins.
បាទអញ្ចឹងមេធាវីគាត់សួរថាអ្នកស្រី Jody Wilkins គាត់មានមុខងារជាអ្វីនៅនាយកដ្ឋានសម្រាប់ត្រួតពិនិត្យនិងផ្នែកសុខាភិបាលនៃទីក្រុង Philadelphia គាត់និយាយថាអ្នកស្រី Jody Wilkins គឺជាអ្នកត្រួតពិនិត្យនៅខាងផ្នែកនោះ
How long have you worked with the health department?
11 years.
Have you been in this position the entire time?
Yes.
គាត់សួរថាធ្វើការខាងផ្នែកនេះប្រហែលឆ្នាំគាត់ថា11ឆ្នាំធ្វើការជាមួយពួកគាត់រហូតក្នុងរយៈពេល11ឆ្នាំមួយនេះ
Can you describe your duties?
I approve and deny tobacco retailer permits for the sale of tobacco and e-cigarette products. And I also ticket businesses for selling tobacco to minors.
បាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំការផ្នែកដែលខ្ញុំត្រូវចុះទៅត្រួតពិនិត្យកន្លែងណាដែលលក់ថ្នាំជក់ដូចជាថ្នាំរបារីអគិសនី e-cigarette ហើយក៏ឲ្យសម្បត្តិផាកពិន័យទៅកាន់កន្លែងណាដែលលក់ឲ្យក្មេងដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំ
Do those duties include reviewing department records?
Yes.
បាទគាត់ថាគាត់ក៏ពិនិត្យកំណត់ត្រាដែលបានសរសេរទុកពីមុនមកដែរ
Do they also include reviewing notices of violations for tobacco use sales?
Yes, it does.
បាទគាត់ត្រូវពិនិត្យផងដែរថាកន្លែងណាដែលត្រូវធ្វើល្មើសឬធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់ទៅក្នុងនឹងការលក់ថ្នាំជក់
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
បាទខ្ញុំសូមបង្ហាញផុសតាំងលើអេក្រង់
Ms. Wilkins, and the board, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Ms. Wilkins, do you see what's identified as City Exhibit 1?
yes, I do.
បានអញ្ចឹងគាត់សួរថាតើអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់ឃើញអេក្រង់នៅគាត់ថាឃើញហើយគាត់បញ្ជាក់ថានេះជាភស្តុតាងទី1នៃទីក្រុង Philadelphia.
Can you describe what this is?
This is a denial letter for the tobacco retailer permit for the year 2020 to Moon Dragon, 1933 West Huntington Park.
បាទអញ្ចឹងអានេះជាគាត់សួរថាតើនេះជាសម្បត្តិអីគាត់ថាសម្បត្តិដែលបានជួនដំណឹងទៅកាន់កន្លែង Moon Dragon ដែលមានអាសយដ្ឋាននៅ1933 West Huntington Park Avenue នៅទីក្រុង Philadelphia ដែលបានបញ្ជាក់ថាគេបដិសេធមិនអោយគាត់ការអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណសម្រាប់លក់ថ្នាំជក់
This document is dated December 27th, 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that your signature at the bottom of this letter?
That's correct.
Excuse me,
But I
Mr.
threw-
Chair. Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm going to ask that the interpreter interpret Ms. Curley's question first and then the answer, because she asked a question, an answer was given. He did not interpret it before the next question was asked. And so the record cannot be clear if he is not interpreting question and then answer.
Thank you, Ms. Penn.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Penn.
Yeah, just for the record, up to this point, I've interpreted question and answer, but I will agree to board members' request. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Curley, would you repeat the question?
I think the last question, Ms. Wilkins, is that your signature on this letter?
Yes,
អ
it
ញ្ចឹង
is.
គាត់សួរថាតើនៅជាហត្ថលេខារបស់អ្នកស្រី Wilkins ទៅលើសេចក្តីជូនដំណឹងមួយនេះគាត់ថាមែនហើយ
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins, okay, thank you.
Can you tell the board why the tobacco retailer permit was denied for this petitioner?
បាទសូមប្រាប់គណៈកម្មាធិការរបស់យើងខ្ញុំថាមូលហេតុដែលអ្នកស្រីត្រូវបានបដិសេធមិនឲ្យគាត់កាន់អាជ្ញាប័ណ្ណដើម្បីលក់ថ្នាំជក់
The business was denied a tobacco retailer permit for the year 2020 because they had more than 3 tobacco retailer, more than 3 sales of tobacco to minors in 2 years.
បាទអញ្ចឹងមូលហេតុដែលគេបដិសេធសម្រាប់ឆ្នាំ2020គឺគេឃើញថាកន្លែងនេះត្រូវបានលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំបិទលើ3ដងឬ3លើកក្នុងរយៈពេល2ឆ្នាំ
And those incidents, are they recited in the center of this letter that I'm circling with these, where these dates are indicated?
បាទអញ្ចឹងសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាហេតុការណ៍ដែលបានកើតឡើងដែលគេចាប់គាត់ថាគាត់បានលក់ថ្នាំទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំគឺត្រូវបានបញ្ជាក់នៅក្នុងសម្បត្តិនេះមែនទេ
Yes, they are.
បាទមែន
Just asking for the admission of City Exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
បាទ
No
ខ្ញុំសូម
objection.
ស្នើសុំឲ្យគេយកនៅភស្តុតាងមួយនេះគេយក
Moving to City Exhibit 2, Ms. Wilkins, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
បាទអញ្ចឹងយើងមើលភស្តុតាងទី2តើអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់ឃើញហើយនឹងទទួលស្គាល់ថានេះជាសេចក្តីជូនដំណឹងមួយគាត់ថាស្គាល់ហើយ
And we're both fast talkers, Ms. Wilkins, so just remember to let.
Yeah.
Thank you.
សូមទោស
Yes,
ពេល
I
ឲ្យ
do.
អ្នកបកប្រែបាទខ្ញុំស្គាល់
So looking at this CVN that is noted, City Exhibit 2, Bates number 002, CVN 606899441. What does this CVN indicate?
បាទអញ្ចឹងអានេះភស្តុតាងទី2ដែលត្រូវបានបញ្ជាក់ថាមានធ្វើល្មើសនឹងច្បាប់ខូដហើយគេបានបញ្ជាក់ថាខូដនេះគឺ606894 -1 តែគាត់សួរថាតានេះមានន័យថាម៉េចគាត់នឹងបញ្ជាក់
This is a sell tobacco to a minor that occurred on 3/26/2018. And they were given their ticket on the bottom date, which I don't see there, was 3/27/18.
អញ្ចឹងអានេះជាការផាកពិន័យដែលបានលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំដែលត្រូវបានសរសេរនៅថ្ងៃទី26ខែ3ឆ្នាំ2018ហើយក៏សរសេរការបរិច្ឆេទនៅខាងក្រោមគឺខែ3ថ្ងៃទី27ឆ្នាំ2018
When I further move down, do you see that date?
Yes, I do.
បាទឃើញការបរិច្ឆេទនៅឃើញហើយ
As part of your job duties, do you determine whether these notices of violation, these CVNs, have been paid at the Office of Administrative Review?
បាទអញ្ចឹងនៅក្នុងនាមដែលអ្នកស្រីធ្វើការងារនៅទីនោះតើបងបានឃើញថាគេត្រូវបានបងលុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះ
Yes, in the course of our work, we do find out through the Office of Administrative Review whether a ticket is paid or not.
What happened
បាទ
with
ក្នុងការងារដែលយើងធ្វើយើងទាំងតែដឹងថាខាងការិយាល័យដែលជាផ្នែករដ្ឋាភិបាលរដ្ឋបាលសម្រាប់រដ្ឋឬទីក្រុងគេឃើញថាអ្នកណាត្រូវបានបងលុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យ
Was this ticket paid?
Yes,
គេ
it
បង
was.
លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះ
Mr. Pincus, if I may, at this point in time, just lodge an objection. It is not, I believe, proper to have a custodian of records talk about reviewing a document and looking at that document and determining that something may or may not have been paid. There is somewhere a document in question that would confirm it. And to move past that and just allow oral testimony on what somebody saw would be a violation of, at a minimum, the best evidence rule to make sure we determine the actual document in question that exists, that controls whether something was paid or not paid.
I hear your objection, Mr. Griffin. These are administrative hearings. We are not strictly following the rules of evidence. Ms. Wilkins is an administrator within the health department and I believe has the ability to make an investigation. Ms. Curley may have a further response to your objection.
I do, but I also want to make sure the interpreter can interpret everything.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I know.
So first, Mr. Interpreter, you heard an objection from Mr. Griffin. Could you somehow try to repeat what he said? I believe there's been a lot of words in between.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have it written down. គាត់តោះដោយសារតែគាត់គិតថាវាមិនសមរម្យដែលបានសួរដល់អ្នកដែលធ្វើខាងរដ្ឋដើម្បីបញ្ជាក់ថាតើមានគេបងលុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យទេហើយគាត់និយាយថាបើសិនចង់ដឹងមែនទៅមើលវិក័យប័ត្ររបស់រដ្ឋទៅហើយគាត់ថានេះជាអ្វីមួយដែលមិនមែនជាភស្តុតាងឲ្យបានគ្រប់គ្រាន់ហើយលោកប្រធានគាត់និយាយថាអត់អីទេអានេះគ្រាន់តែសាវនាការធម្មតាហើយមិនចាំបាច់មានភស្តុតាងបែបហ្នឹងទេយើងអាចទុកចិត្តអ្នកស្រី Jody Wilkins ដែលគាត់បានធ្វើការបញ្ជាក់ថ្ងៃនេះដោយផ្ទាល់មាត់
Ms. Curley, do you have a response to the objection?
Two things.
Wait a minute. Mr.
អ្នកស្រី
Interpreter.
Curley អាចឆ្លើយតបនឹងការទាស់របស់លោកមេធាវី
First, Ms. Wilkins is permitted to testify to her review of records, which she has already provided to the board and provided foundation for. That it is part of her job duties to review those records and determine whether those tickets have been paid. I'll let Mr. Jared translate.
បាទអញ្ចឹងគាត់និយាយថាគាត់មានការឆ្លើយតបពីរយ៉ាងទី1គឺអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់មានសមត្ថភាពគ្រប់គ្រាន់ហើយជាការងាររបស់គាត់ដែលគាត់ត្រូវមើលកំណត់ត្រារបស់រដ្ឋចំពោះអ្នកណាថាគេបង លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យហើយគាត់ដឹងច្បាស់ហើយនេះជាការងាររបស់គាត់
And then second, if there is a document that somehow shows these tickets are not paid, it is ultimately the petitioner, the appellant in this case, who bears the burden of providing that documentation. So that ultimate burden is on them to provide that. It is not the city's obligation.
បាទបើសិនមានការផាកពិន័យមួយដែលអត់បានបង់លុយគឺយើងទុកឲ្យអ្នកដែលអូតូថ្ងៃនេះឬអ្នកដែលតវ៉ាថ្ងៃនេះគាត់មានទំនួលខុសត្រូវក្នុងទៅរកការទៅរកឯកសារមួយនោះដើម្បីយកមកបញ្ជាក់ចំពោះទីក្រុង
Having heard argument, I'm determining that the objection is overruled.
បាទតាមការលើការទាស់និងការឆ្លើយតបរបស់អ្នកស្រី GMA-TV គាត់ថាគាត់លើកលែង
Ms. Curley, you may proceed.
Just realized everyone.
ជួយអ្នកស្រី Curly
Okay, moving on to this CVN, Ms. Wilkins, scrolling out, making it a little easier. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
បាទអញ្ចឹងយើងបន្តទៅកន្លែង CVN មួយទៀតគឺការផាកពិន័យគាត់សួរថាឃើញទេគាត់ថាឃើញហើយ
This is dated March 26, 2018. Correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងត្រូវសរសេរការបរិច្ឆេទខែ3ថ្ងៃទី26ឆ្នាំ2018មែនទេ
Yes, that's correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
And also provided to this petitioner, is that correct?
ហើយបានត្រូវប្រកល់ឲ្យអ្នកដែលគាត់តវ៉ាថ្ងៃនេះមែនទេ
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
Again, for tobacco sales without ID, which is indicated in the center of the ticket.
នេះជាការផាកពិន័យដែលគាត់លក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលគ្មានបានបកបរអាចបង្ហាញទៅកាន់គាត់
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
Were you able to determine if this ticket was paid?
តើអ្នកស្រីបានឃើញថាគេបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះទេ
This ticket was reduced to a warning at the hearing, so they were not liable for this particular ticket.
Okay.
បាទអញ្ចឹងការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះគេបដូរទៅជាការព្រមានដល់កន្លែងមួយនេះដោយសារតែគេធ្វើនៅសវនកម្មការសម្រេចនេះទៅឡើងនៅសវនកម្ម
Moving down to this fourth page, do you recognize these documents?
May I interrupt, please? I just want to confirm that, in fact, there was a hearing that took place for these first two tickets that were issued on March the 26th. Is that correct, Ms. Curley?
Is that your understanding? Oh, sorry.
លោកប្រធានគាត់សូមបញ្ជាក់ថាសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យទី1និងទី2តើមានសវនកម្មដែលគាត់បានត្រូវបង្ហាញមុខមែនទេអ្នកស្រី Curly
Is that your understanding, Ms. Wilkins, that a hearing did occur?
សំសួរថាអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់ដឹងទេថាគេឡើងសវនកម្មសម្រាប់ចំណុចនេះ
Yes, that is my understanding.
បាទតាមអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំដឹងត្រឹមត្រូវ
And as a result, the first ticket was paid after that hearing.
បាទអញ្ចឹងលទ្ធផលការផាកពិន័យទី1ត្រូវបានគេបង់លុយមែនទេ
That is correct. The first one was paid. This was not needed to be paid since it was not liable.
បាទអញ្ចឹងការផាកពិន័យទី1ត្រូវបានបង់លុយទី2គឺទៅជាការប្រមានតែប៉ុណ្ណោះ
Thank you.
Moving down to the fourth page, do you recognize these documents?
សង្កេតទៅមើលទំព័រទី4តើអ្នកស្រីស្គាល់ឯកសារទាំងនេះ
Yes, I do recognize them.
បាទខ្ញុំស្គាល់ខ្ញុំដឹង
These are CVNs provided to the petitioner dated September 22nd, 2018.
បាទអញ្ចឹងនេះជាការផាកពិន័យដែលត្រូវបានបកគោដល់អ្នកដែលចូលរួមថ្ងៃនេះដែលតវ៉ាដែលត្រូវបានបកគោទៅកាន់គាត់ខែ12ខែ12ថ្ងៃទី22ឆ្នាំ2021មែនទេ
Yes, they were given to the petitioner on the bottom date, which was on September 29th, 2018.
បាទអធិស្ឋានគឺឆ្នាំ2018បាទអញ្ចឹងត្រូវបានប្រកល់ទៅកាន់គាត់នៅខែ9ថ្ងៃទី24ឆ្នាំ2018មិនមែន21
And oh, and again, the reason for the violations, what is that?
ហើយតើផាកពិន័យដោយសារអ្វី
Tobacco sale to minor and tobacco sale without asking for ID.
បាទអញ្ចឹងអានេះត្រូវបានឲ្យទៅកន្លែងនេះដោយសារតែគេលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំហើយលក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលចង់ទិញដោយគាត់គ្មានអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណឬបានបកបោបង្ហាញ
And were you able to determine whether these tickets were paid?
បាទអញ្ចឹងសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាតើអ្នកស្រីដឹងថាគេបានបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះ
Yes, they were paid without a hearing.
បាទគេត្រូវបានបង់លុយដោយគ្មានសវនកម្ម
Okay. Moving down to page 5. Do you recognize these?
បាទអញ្ចឹងសូមមើលទំព័រទី5តើអ្នកស្រីស្គាល់ឯកសារទាំងនេះ
Yes, I do.
បាទខ្ញុំស្គាល់ខ្ញុំដឹង
Again, dated 12/26/2018, sent to the petitioner. Is that correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងត្រូវបានដាក់ការបរិច្ឆេទខែ12ថ្ងៃទី26ឆ្នាំ2018ដែលត្រូវបានប្រកល់ឲ្យអ្នកតវ៉ាមែនទេ
Yes, that is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
And again, what are the violations noted on the center of the tickets?
ហើយគាត់ធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់យ៉ាងម៉េចនៅលើដែលបានត្រូវសរសេរនៅលើការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះ
There was tobacco sale to minor and the tobacco sale without asking for ID.
បានត្រូវអញ្ចឹងត្រូវបានលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំហើយលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់មនុស្សម្នាក់ដែលគាត់គ្មានបានបបឬអត្តសញ្ញាណប័ណ្ណ
And were you able to determine whether these tickets were paid?
តើអ្នកស្រីដឹងទេថាម្ចាស់ទៅគាត់ត្រូវបានបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះ
Yes, they were paid with a hearing. They were found liable, and so they paid after the hearing was done.
បាទគេធ្វើសវនកម្មគេរកឃើញម្ចាស់ត្រូវបានធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់មែនហើយគេត្រូវបង់ផាកពិន័យ
And lastly, this ticket, do you recognize this?
បាទជាចុងក្រោយតើអ្នកស្រីដឹងឬស្គាល់ពីការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះ
Yes, I do recognize that ticket.
បាទខ្ញុំស្គាល់
Again, dated 2/7/2019, sent to the petitioner. Is that correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងបានដាក់ការបរិច្ឆេទខែ2ថ្ងៃទី7ឆ្នាំ2018ដែលបានត្រូវប្រកល់ឲ្យអ្នកដាក់តវ៉ាថ្ងៃនេះមែនទេ
Yes, that's correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
And again, what is the violation notated in the center?
បាទហើយគេត្រូវបានសរសេរលើការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះយ៉ាងដូចម្ដេច
This is for a tobacco sale to minor.
បានលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំ
And again, were you able to determine whether this ticket was paid?
ហើយតើអ្នកស្រីដឹងទេថាគេបានបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះ
Yes, the ticket was paid after a hearing. They were found liable, and they paid after that.
បាទអញ្ចឹងគេត្រូវបានបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះបន្ទាប់ពីសវនកម្មគេរកឃើញថាគេធ្វើខុសមែន
I would ask for the admission of City Exhibit 2.
បាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំស្នើសូមឲ្យទីក្រុងទទួលយកនៅភស្តុតាងទាំងនេះ
So admitted.
បាទខ្ញុំទទួល
Okay. And Ms. Wilkins, as a result of those CVNs that we just discussed, the health department denied the renewal of that tobacco permit for this petitioner, correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងយោងតាមការផាកពិន័យ CVN ទាំងនេះនាយកដ្ឋានតាមខាងសុខាភិបាលគេបានបដិសេធមិនឲ្យគេលក់ថ្នាំជក់បន្តទៀតមែនទេ
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
Okay, I have nothing further for this witness. Offer for cross.
Ms.
បាទខ្ញុំ
Wilkins, good
គ្មានអ្វី
afternoon.
ផ្សេងទៀតខ្ញុំសូមប្រកល់ឲ្យភក្តីមួយទៀត
All right, Mr. Griffin, this is your opportunity to cross-examine the witness. Remember, there's, just like I have managed to forget several times, please remember there is an interpreter and allow the interpreter to interpret before an answer is given. Mr. Griffin,
Yeah.
let him
Yes,
interpret
sir.
what I did. Let him interpret what I just said.
អញ្ចឹងលោកមេធាវី Griffin ឥឡូវខ្ញុំទុកពេលវេលាឲ្យលោកបានសួរសំណួរទៅកាន់សាក្សីដែលទើបតែឆ្លើយសំណួររបស់អ្នកស្រីមេធាវីអញ្ចឹងសូមទុកពេលវេលាឲ្យអ្នកបកប្រែគាត់ឲ្យបកប្រែបន្ទាប់ពីលោកបានមានប្រសាសន៍
Proceed, Mr. Griffin.
Ms.
Good.
Wilkins, good afternoon.
បាទអញ្ចឹងជំរាបសួរអ្នកស្រី Wilkins
Good afternoon.
Ms. Wilkins, I want to refer you back to government exhibit number 1.
បាទគាត់ជំរាបសួរដូចគ្នាអញ្ចឹងគាត់ឥឡូវមើលទៅលើផុសតាងទី1ដែលខាងរដ្ឋបានលើកឡើង
This is the letter dated December 27, 2019.
បាទអញ្ចឹងអានេះជាសម្បត្តិសេចក្តីជូនដំណឹងដែលត្រូវបានដាក់កាលបរិច្ឆេទខែ12ថ្ងៃទី27ឆ្នាំ2019
This is a letter sent to the individual that is essentially a denial letter. Am I correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងសម្បត្តិមួយនេះឬសេចក្តីជូនដំណឹងមួយនេះគឺជាសម្បត្តិដែលបានបញ្ជាក់ថាការបាក់ទីសាយមែនទេ
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
It does not list the actual disposition on that letter of each of these violations. Am I correct?
បាទប៉ុន្តែនៅក្នុងសម្បត្តិមួយនេះវាអត់បញ្ជាក់ច្បាស់លាស់ថាតើការធ្វើល្មើសនឹងច្បាប់ឬខុសនឹងច្បាប់ទាំងនេះបានធ្វើលក្ខណៈយ៉ាងម៉េចឬមានលក្ខណៈយ៉ាងម៉េច
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹម
Now,
ត្រូវ
I'm going to ask you a series of questions that deal with each of the violations, if I may.
អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមសួរសំណួរដែលពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងការធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់ទាំងនេះ
Sure.
So just for clarification, and I just want to make sure this is clear.
If I may interrupt for one moment, please.
បាទអញ្ចឹងគាត់ថាអាចនឹងសួរបាន
I just wanted to make sure Mr. Pettit was aware his iPhone was blocking the screen, which is now moved. So it's the observation is moot.
បាទគាត់បញ្ជាក់ថាលោក Petty គាត់បានមានអីបាងទូរស័ព្ទគាត់មើលមកគាត់មិនឃើញ
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Griffin.
បាទសូមអញ្ជើញ
So if I refer you to government exhibit 2, at the top, there is a date, which is the date of violation. And then down the bottom is a date of the issuance to the individual. Am I correct?
បាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមចង្អុលទៅកាន់ផុសតាងទី2នៅខាងលើគេបញ្ជាក់ថាថ្ងៃដែលគាត់ធ្វើល្មើសច្បាប់ឬខុសនឹងច្បាប់តមកខាងក្រោមគេសរសេរថាថ្ងៃដែលត្រូវបានបកគោការផាកពិន័យមែនទេ
That is correct.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវ
So when this violation is issued to the individual, doesn't that issuance go out by regular mail?
បាទអញ្ចឹងនៅពេលដែលគេត្រូវបានប្រកល់ការផាកពិន័យទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់តើគេផ្ញើតាមសម្បត្តិមែនទេ
No, we issued the tickets at the business. So staff are assigned to go to the business and let them know that the violation occurred and they're hand delivered. If they are mailed, it's only because we did not have access to them because the business closed. But that did not happen in this case.
What?
Wait a moment, Mr. Griffin. Wait a moment. Let
Yes.
the interpreter speak.
គាត់ថាមិនមែនទេយើងខ្ញុំនៅពេលដែលត្រូវសរសេរសម្បត្តិផាកពិន័យយើងទាំងតែចុះទៅផ្ទាល់ទៅកន្លែងចំនួនមួយដើម្បីប្រកល់ឲ្យម្ចាស់ចំនួន ក្នុងស្ថានភាពដែលគេត្រូវបានបត់កន្លែងអញ្ចឹងគេមិនអាចនឹងតាក់ទងទៅម្ចាស់គេផ្ញើជាសម្បត្តិទៅវិញ
So Ms. Wilkins, specifically with refer to Government Exhibit 2, what are you looking at or what do you reference that shows in this particular case, some individual hand delivered this to the business?
បាទអញ្ចឹងសូមយោងតាមភស្តុតាងទី2ដែលខាងរដ្ឋបានលើកឡើងតើអ្នកស្រីបានឃើញអ្វីទៅលើការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះដែលអាចប្រាប់យើងថាមានគេចុះទៅកន្លែងរកស៊ីឬកន្លែងចំនួនរបស់អ្នកស្រីផ្ទាល់ដើម្បីឲ្យការផាកពិន័យ
The ticket was issued by a staff member. At the bottom is their signature or their name. And that's one of my employees that I sent to the business to issue the ticket. When they are mailed, I issue them myself. So I will make a note on the record when I mail them. But this one was one I sent out to that particular employee to serve.
And what is it that you...
Wait a
I'm
moment,
sorry.
please.
My mistake, my mistake.
បាទអញ្ចឹងបុគ្គលិករបស់យើងខ្ញុំគាត់ចុះទៅផ្ទាល់ហើយខ្ញុំជាអ្នកបញ្ជាអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំបញ្ជាគាត់ទៅចុះទៅចំនួននេះផ្ទាល់ហើយបើសិនខ្ញុំផ្ញើជាសម្បត្តិខ្ញុំផ្ញើផ្ទាល់ខ្លួនអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសរសេរនឹងសញ្ញេហើយក៏កំណត់ត្រាថាខ្ញុំបានផ្ញើជាសម្បត្តិអញ្ចឹងក្នុងហេតុការណ៍នេះខ្ញុំបានបញ្ជូនបុគ្គលិកទៅជួបកន្លែងចំនួននេះផ្ទាល់
Before we proceed, Mr. Griffin, I guess I'd like to have an understanding of the purpose of this line of questioning, because from what was the testimony that was previously given, your client either appeared at the hearings or paid the fines. So it would appear there would be no question with respect to whether or not these tickets were received. Wait a moment, let the interpreter.
អញ្ចឹងលោកប្រធានគាត់សួរទៅកាន់មេធាវី Griffin គាត់ថាសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាលោកសួរសំណួរដើម្បីចង់រកភស្តុតាងឬហេតុផលអ្វីហើយគាត់និយាយថាដោយសារតែពីមុនមកយើងឃើញថាម្ចាស់ចំនួននេះគាត់បានបងផាកពិន័យហើយដូចជាគ្មានការតវ៉ាឬឆ្ងល់ចំពោះការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះអញ្ជើញ
Mr. Pincus, then I will just move forward into another area based upon that, if I may. I'll allow that to be interpreted.
សូមលោក Pincus ខ្ញុំសួរសំណួរមួយយ៉ាងទៀត
Say that again, please.
I thought I said a little bit more than that, but I think I said, Mr. Pincus, I will fast forward into an area if I may.
Sure.
អញ្ចឹងលោក Pincus គាត់សូមការអនុញ្ញាតដើម្បីសួរសំណួរមួយយ៉ាងទៀតបាទ
Ms. Wilkins, your ability to, on each of these citations, testify that there was a hearing, what are you looking at that confirms that?
ចឹងសូមសួរអ្នកស្រី Wilkins ដែលបានបញ្ជាក់និងផ្ដល់សក្ខីភាពថាសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយចំនួនត្រូវបានឡើងធ្វើសវនកម្មមុនគាត់បងផាកពិន័យតើអ្នកស្រីបានឃើញអីទៅលើការផាកពិន័យនេះដែលបញ្ជាក់អញ្ចឹង
The information about whether they have a hearing on whether it's a ticket is paid or what the disposition of the tickets are, that information is given to us through the health department, through the Office of Administrative Review. So when they provide the information to us, then we know what the status of a ticket is. So that information was gathered by them, and that's how I know whether they had a hearing or not, or whether they paid or not.
អញ្ចឹងព័ត៌មានទៅតងនឹងតាបកគោឬមនុស្សម្នាក់ឬចំនួនបានឡើងធ្វើសវនកម្មហើយទៅតងនឹងការផាកពិន័យហើយនឹងមូលហេតុតែគេផាកពិន័យគឺត្រូវបានឲ្យតាមរយៈនាយកដ្ឋានឬក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលនិង Office of Administrative Review ដែលគាត់បានបញ្ជាក់ថាការផាកពិន័យនេះសម្រាប់អ្វីខ្លះ
So Ms. Wilkins, you yourself do not know with any type of firsthand knowledge whether or not there was a hearing or not whether or not something was paid. You're relying on records that somebody else is providing to you. Is that correct?
បាទ
Objection.
អញ្ចឹងសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាអ្នកស្រី Wilkins មិនដឹងផ្ទាល់ថាអ្នកមីងអ្នកស្រីបានដឹងពីសវនាការផ្ទាល់គ្រាន់តែមើលតាមកំណត់ត្រារបស់គេដែលគេឲ្យរបស់អ្នកស្រីទៅកាន់អ្នកស្រីមែនទេហើយគាត់ផ្ទាល់
Before you proceed with an answer, Ms. Curley has objected.
So our objection is based on, this has been asked and answered.
Wait a minute, let the interpreters interpret what I said.
បាទមុនយើងបន្តអ្នកស្រី Curly គាត់បានទាស់នឹងការចោទប្រកាន់មួយនេះ
Ms.
So
Curley.
our objection is based on the fact that this has been asked and answered by Ms. Wilkins as to how she obtained the records.
បាទ
I
ខ្ញុំ
don't think
ទាស់ដោយសារតាគេបានសួរសំណួរហើយអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់បានឆ្លើយហើយ
Mr.
I don't
Griffin,
believe this line has been acted on. So I would request that the objection be denied and the answer be permitted.
ខ្ញុំមិនជឿថាគាត់បានឆ្លើយសំណួរតាក់ទងនឹងចំណុចនេះទេហើយខ្ញុំសូមឲ្យលោកប្រធានគាត់លើកលែងទៅលើការទាស់របស់អ្នកស្រី May TV
I believe that Ms. Curley's objection is valid. However, since it's already been asked and answered, would you answer it one more time, Ms. Pauls? Ms. Wilkins, I'm sorry.
អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំយកស្របតាមMay TV Curly ដែលគាត់បានទាស់នឹងការចោទប្រកាន់របស់លោកប៉ុន្តែដោយសារតែអ្នកស្រី Wilkins គាត់ឆ្លើយតបហើយខ្ញុំសូមឲ្យគាត់ឆ្លើយម្ដងទៀតសូមអញ្ជើញ
The answer to the question is that it is from the outside agency through the Office of Administrative Review that the information is gathered and sent to us here at the Health Department so that we can make determinations of whether a person has violated the use sell law for 3 tobacco sales to minors in 2 years. The information is gathered by the outside agency, but as a core part of my business.
All right, stop for a minute, please.
អញ្ចឹងព័ត៌មាននេះត្រូវបានប្រកល់មកកាន់ខ្ញុំដោយអង្គភាពខាងក្រៅដូចជា Office Administrative Review ដែលបានប្រកល់មកកាន់មន្ទីរឬក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលរបស់យើងខ្ញុំដែលបានបញ្ជាក់ថាចំនួនមួយនេះបានលួចឆ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំ3ដងក្នុងរយៈពេល2ឆ្នាំហើយ
If I may, Ms. Wilkins, the bottom line is that the information with respect to the disposition of these tickets is information that you receive from the Board of Administrations or some other outside source, and it's maintained and kept, and there's a record of it in the records of the Health Department. Is that correct?
អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមមានសិទ្ធិក្នុងជួយឆ្លើយគឺព័ត៌មានដែលអ្នកស្រី Wilkins បានទទួលគឺជាព័ត៌មានដែលបានទទួលពីអង្គភាពខាងក្រៅឬពីក្រសួងឬមន្ទីរមួយដែលគេកំណត់ត្រាថាអ្វីដែលកើតឡើងពីមុនមកហើយគេរក្សាទុកមែនទេ
That is correct.
Thank you.
បាទត្រឹមត្រូវលោកអរគុណ
Miss Wilkins, if there is a hearing that occurs, isn't there some type of written adjudication that is given by the hearing examiner thereafter? In other words, it's sustained, it's overruled. Isn't there something there that
Mr.
exists?
Griffin, Ms.
Yes.
Curley, all right, let the interpreter interpret your question.
បាទអញ្ចឹងអ្នកស្រី Wilkins នៅពេលដែលគេធ្វើសវនកម្មនៅទីបញ្ចប់តើគេបញ្ជាក់ជាលាយលក្ខណ៍អក្សរមែនទេដូចជាគាត់ខុសមែនគាត់មិនខុសទេឬយើងលើកលែងមែនទេ
Ms. Curley.
Our objection is based on, this is beyond the scope of questioning and Ms. Wilkins' expertise. There's already been testimony that she works for the health department, not for OAR, so she would not know whether OAR is in the, what written records OAR produces. Moreover, this is again on the petitioner's burden to present those documents to refute the evidence provided by the health department.
Mr. Pincus,
Just a moment, let the interpreter go forward.
គាត់តដោយសារតានេះហួសពីទូនីតិរបស់អ្នកស្រី Wilkins តើគាត់ធ្វើខាងផ្នែកសុខាភិបាលតែប៉ុណ្ណោះ ហើយឯកសារទាំងនេះត្រូវបានប្រកបឲ្យគាត់ដោយ OAR អញ្ចឹងម្យ៉ាងទៀតក៏ខ្ញុំស្នើសុំឲ្យភាគីមួយទៀតជួនចោលដែលគាត់ត្រូវផ្ដល់ភស្តុតាងឲ្យបានគ្រប់គ្រាន់ដែលគាត់អាចនឹងយកដោយខ្លួនឯងបានទេដើម្បីទាស់នឹងការចោទប្រកាន់របស់ខ្ញុំ
Okay, the OAR is the Office of Administrative Review, is that correct?
អញ្ចឹងសូមបញ្ជាក់ឡើងវិញ OAR គឺ Office of Administrative Review មែនទេ
All right, I'm going to rule that the objection is sustained. Mr. Griffin, would you proceed with any additional questions you have regarding?
អញ្ចឹងគាត់ទទួលយកការទាស់របស់អ្នកស្រីសូមលោក Griffin អញ្ជើញសួរសំណួរផ្សេងទៀតបានទេ
I have no further questions of Ms. Wilkins.
បាទខ្ញុំគ្មានសំណួរផ្សេងទៀតសម្រាប់អ្នកស្រី Wilkins
Ms. Curley, do you have any additional witnesses?
Nothing further.
អញ្ចឹងអ្នកស្រី Curley គ្មានអ្វីផ្សេងទៀតដែលគាត់ចង់ផ្ដល់ឲ្យថ្ងៃនេះ
Mr. Griffin, do you have any witnesses to present?
Yes, I would ask.
Just a minute, just a minute.
លោក Griffin មានអ្នកសាក្សីដែលចង់ឡើងមានប្រសាសន៍ទេ
I would ask to call Miss Delaney Heng.
ខ្ញុំសូមហៅអ្នកស្រី Delaney Heng
ចា
Yes
Ms. Heng, you've been sworn in.
ចា
បាទអញ្ចឹងអ្នកស្រី Heng បានស្បត់ហើយបានស្បត់ហើយ
Go ahead, Mr. Griffin.
បាទសូមអញ្ជើញលោក Griffin
Ms. Heng, good afternoon.
បាទជំរាបសួរអ្នកស្រី Heng
ចាជំរាបសួរ
Yes hello
Ms. Heng, have you been able to follow along with the testimony and the presentation thus far?
អ្នកស្រី Heng តាមទាន់ទេនៅសកម្មភាពឬការមានប្រសាសន៍របស់អ្នកស្រីនិងមេធាវីថ្ងៃនេះ
ចា
Yes
And you own a business that is located at 1933 West Hunting Park Avenue, is that correct?
ហើយអ្នកស្រីជាម្ចាស់ជំនួញកន្លែងនៅ1933 West Honey Park Avenue មែនទេ
ចា
Yes
And how long have you owned that business?
ហើយអ្នកស្រីជាម្ចាស់ជំនួញមួយនេះរយៈពេលប្រហែលឆ្នាំហើយ
7 ឆ្នាំ
7 years now
Now, Ms. Heng, the city has advised through testimony that you were cited on 4 different occasions for selling to a minor. Do you understand that?
បាទអញ្ចឹងខាងទីក្រុងមេធាវីទីក្រុងបានបញ្ជាក់ថាអ្នកស្រីទទួលការផាកពិន័យ4 ដងដោយសារតែអ្នកស្រីបានលក់ថ្នាំជក់ទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំអ្នកស្រីស្ដាប់បានទេ
ចាកាលនោះគាត់ប្រាប់ខ្ញុំចឹងមែន
Yes and they did tell me that at the time
Did you go to hearings on each of these tickets?
នៅពេលដែលគេផាកពិន័យម្ដងតើអ្នកមេងត្រូវឡើងសវនកម្មទេ
ចាខ្ញុំទៅ
Yes I did
And did you contest each of these tickets?
តើអ្នកមេងប្រឆាំងនឹងការផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះទេ
កាលនោះខ្ញុំគាត់សួរខ្ញុំដែរតើខ្ញុំនឹងមានកាមេរ៉ាអត់កាលនោះផ្ទះខ្ញុំអត់មានកាមេរ៉ាអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំអត់មានអីនឹងយកមកបង្ហាញគាត់ថាខ្ញុំមានកាមេរ៉ាអីអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំអត់មានណា
That time, one of their questioning was related to having a camera on site of the business, and I told them I don't have a camera.
So is it your testimony that you did not have a camera at the time of these citations?
អញ្ចឹង
When they
តើ
were
អ្នក
issued?
មេងបានបញ្ជាក់ថានៅថ្ងៃដែលគេឲ្យផាកពិន័យអ្នកមេងអត់មានកាមេរ៉ានៅទីកន្លែងរកស៊ីរបស់អ្នកមេង
ចាខ្ញុំអត់មាន
Yes, I don't have that.
Did you have a, what we call an ID machine that someone would have to present their ID when they were purchasing cigarettes or tobacco
That's a-
products?
តើអ្នកស្រីមានម៉ាស៊ីនសម្រាប់ថតឬមើលអត្តសញ្ញាណប័ណ្ណរបស់អ្នកទិញពេលដែលគាត់ចង់ទិញថ្នាំជក់
កាលនោះខ្ញុំអត់មានម៉ាស៊ីន ID ខ្ញុំមើលខ្លួនឯងមើលដោយភ្នែកខ្លួនឯង
The
That
city is
time I didn't have a
objecting to
machine.
relevance.
I didn't have a machine. I just examined the card with my own eyes.
Okay, Ms. Curley,
Sorry, the city objection to this line of questioning has no relevance on the basis for this hearing about whether these violations occurred. That's not relevant to the disposition of this hearing that's already been litigated.
បាទទោះចំពោះការសួរសំណួររបស់លោកមេធាវីថាការសួរសំណួរតទៅនឹងការផាកពិន័យពីមុនមកមិនពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងអ្វីដែលយើងធ្វើថ្ងៃនេះពីព្រោះពីមុនមកគេសម្រេចដីរួចមកហើយ
objection is sustained. Would you please move on, Mr. Griffin?
បាទគាត់យកស្របការទាស់របស់អ្នកគ្រូគាត់ថាលោក Griffin សូមអញ្ជើញ
Carolyn, if I may ask your courtesy, I seem to be having a glitch here. Could you pull up my exhibit 4? Are you able to do that?
Just a
បាទអ
moment.
ញ្ចឹង
let the-
គាត់សូមអ្នកស្រី Curly គាត់មានបញ្ហារអាក់រអួលក្នុង computer របស់គាត់គាត់ថាសូមលើកនិងមើលភស្តុតាងទី4ឲ្យខ្ញុំ
I appreciate it, Carolyn. Thank you.
បាទសូមអរគុណអ្នកស្រី Carolyn
One time, Mr. Griffin, one time.
អនុញ្ញាតឲ្យតែ
Is
ម្ដ
that
ង
one time per this case? Because I've got 2 others.
One day, you get one day.
គេនិយាយលេងណាថាគាត់អនុញ្ញាតឲ្យតែម្ដងទេបង
Can you
Ms.
confirm?
Hang,
this
are
is-
you able to see this document, Exhibit 4?
តើអ្នកស្រីអាចនឹងឃើញឯកសារមួយនេះគេហៅថាភស្តុតាងទី4
តាំងពី license ចាអាហ្នឹងខ្ញុំមានតា
license
Now,
I have that
I'm going to assume you can't read it, but if the interpreter can ask, is that your state license that is issued for your tobacco products license?
So
បាទអ
I'm,
ញ្ចឹង
I am
ស
gonna
មា
move.
ថា
Just a
អ្នកស្
moment.
រីអានមិនបានទេប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំសូមសួរថាតើនេះជាអញ្ញប័ណ្ណដែលខាងរដ្ឋឲ្យទៅការអ្នកមីងដើម្បីអ្នកមីងអាចនឹងលក់ថ្នាំជក់
Ms. Curley,
So
just
the
a
city
moment,
is
please.
objecting.
Just a moment, please.
The city is
Yeah.
the city is objecting on the basis of relevance. This a state license has no bearing on Philadelphia's licensure.
Mr. Griffin, the
Ms.
objection, the objection is sustained. Mr. Griffin, I believe you're familiar with these proceedings.
I am, but I
Yes,
think
sir.
I am also permitted to make what could eventually be a constitutional argument in that the city's actions preempt the authority of the state that also issues these licenses. Now, I do not believe that has been addressed in any particular court, but I want to preserve the right to raise that argument. Now, if you are precluding the admission of this document, then that'll have to be taken up. If Your Honor, or if Mr. Pincus, if you want to determine that the document is admitted, but you are going to sustain further questions about that, then I'll move forward.
I'll admit the document for what it's worth and then ask you to proceed with any additional questions.
I have no further questions.
And just
Thank
wanna
you. Ms. Curley?
just want to let the interpreter interpret that, and then I have a response.
Okay.
បាទអញ្ចឹងអ្នកស្រីគាត់ទាស់ដោយសារតែគាត់ជឿថាភស្តុតាងនេះវាមិនពាក់ព័ន្ធដោយសារតែគាត់ខាងផ្នែកទីក្រុងប ប៉ុន្តែអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណហ្នឹងត្រូវចេញពីរដ្ឋអញ្ចឹងលោក Griffin គាត់តបទៅវិញថាគាត់លើកភស្តុតាងនេះឡើងដោយសារតែគាត់ចង់ពឹងអាងទៅលើរដ្ឋធម្មនុញ្ញមានន័យថារដ្ឋមានសិទ្ធិអំណាចជាងទីក្រុងហើយគាត់សូមឲ្យលោកប្រធានគាត់ទទួលយកភស្តុតាងមួយនេះគាត់ថាទទួលយកតែគាត់សួរថាឥឡូវសំសួរសំណួរផ្សេងទៀត
Just to confirm, for the benefit of the interpreter and the witness, I agreed to accept for admission the Pennsylvania licensing document, but not to accept any further questioning regarding that document.
អញ្ចឹង
Understood.
សម្រាប់អ្នកបកប្រែហើយនឹងអ្នកមេងដែលជាសាក្សីគាត់ទទួលយកនៅភស្តុតាងមួយនេះដែលជាអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណដែលត្រូវចេញពីរដ្ឋ Pennsylvania ដែលគាត់ជាឯកសារដែលគាត់អាចនឹងប្រើពេលក្រោយប៉ុន្តែគាត់អត់ឲ្យសួរសំណួរផ្សេងទៀតទេទាក់ទងនឹងអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណមួយនេះ
Ms. Curley, you had something to
Just wanted to make sure the record is clear that the city does not believe there is a preemption issue.
បាទអញ្ចឹងគាត់សួរថាអ្នកស្រី Curley មានអីចង់និយាយគាត់ថាដើម្បីកំណត់ត្រាគាត់ចង់បញ្ជាក់ថាទីក្រុងមានឬមិនគិតថាមានបញ្ហាទាក់ទងនឹងរដ្ឋនិងទីក្រុងទេ
That's fine. I understand there are no further witnesses.
No.
You have redirect?
No.
Do you have any closing argument, Ms. Curley?
Very brief.
Let the interpreter.
បាទអញ្ចឹងគាត់សួរថាតើមានភស្តុតាងផ្សេងទៀតឬមានសាក្សីផ្សេងទៀតគាត់ថាគ្មានទេឬមានសំណួរសម្រាប់អ្នកមេងគាត់អត់មានសំណួរសម្រាប់អ្នកមេងប៉ុន្តែគាត់មានសេចក្តីបញ្ចប់សម្រាប់ថ្ងៃនេះ
Go ahead, Ms. Curley.
So first, we are simply here today to determine whether the health department properly denied the renewal of this petitioner's tobacco retailer permit based on their youth sales violations. The testimony has been unrefuted that these 4 instances, 7 separate CVNs were paid by the petitioner within a 2-year period. Therefore, the health department's actions were correct. It's very clear from the Philadelphia Code that payment of these CVNs without a hearing constitutes waiver and admission of the violation, as well as the testimony that there was a hearing in multiple of these CVNs and the petitioner was found liable and subsequently paid those CVNs. So
hold on with the interpreter.
អញ្ចឹងដើម្បីបញ្ចប់គាត់សូមបញ្ជាក់ថាជាដំបូងថ្ងៃនេះយើងបានលើពីអ្នកដែលការផ្នែកខាងសុខាភិបាលរបស់រដ្ឋហើយគេសួរសំណួរតទៅនឹងការបដិសេធមិនឲ្យចំនួនមួយនេះលក់ថ្នាំជក់ហើយគេបានលើកភស្តុតាងហើយនឹងសួរសាក្សីអំពី4ដងនិង7ផាកពិន័យដែលកន្លែងនេះត្រូវបានទទួល4ដងដោយសារតែមានលក់ថ្នាំទៅកាន់អ្នកដែលមានអាយុក្រោម18ឆ្នាំហើយខាងផ្នែក Philadelphia Code គាត់រកឃើញថាដោយសារតែអ្នកមេងមិនលើកលែងហើយបានសារភាពថាខ្លួនឯងខុសបានបងលុយទៅការផាកសម្រាប់ការផាកពិន័យមួយនេះយើងអាចរកឃើញថាអ្នកមេងជាអ្នកដែលជាខុសសម្រាប់ការលក់ទាំងនេះ
So as such, the health department properly denied the renewal of this license under the code. Essentially what the petitioner is asking for here is a second bite at the apple, which they are not afforded.
Hold on.
បាទអញ្ចឹងខាងក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលគេបានសម្រេចត្រឹមត្រូវមិនឲ្យអញ្ញាប័ណ្ណសម្រាប់ចំនួនមួយនេះលក់ថ្នាំជក់បន្តទៀតស្របតាម code របស់គេ ហើយអ្វីដែលអ្នកតវ៉ាដែលគាត់ចង់បានថ្ងៃនេះគឺគាត់ចង់លក់បន្តទៀត
And just very lastly, I just very clearly want to state that the legislature, the Pennsylvania legislature, has very expressly not preempted this ordinance. And that is the citation to that I was able to pull up is 72 PS section 232 section A. And so this matter is not preempted and we would preserve that for any future appeal.
បាទអញ្ចឹងជាចង់បញ្ចប់ខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាស្របតាមច្បាប់របស់រដ្ឋ Pennsylvania តំបន់របស់យើងខ្ញុំគ្មានបញ្ហាដែលរដ្ឋមានអំណាចជាងទីក្រុងទេស្របតាមឯកសារដែលគឺ72 PS section E32 section A អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមលើកឡើងអានេះដើម្បីជាការបញ្ជាក់ចុងក្រោយ
So we would just ask to affirm the city's denial. Thank you.
បាទអញ្ចឹងការស្នើសុំរបស់ទីក្រុងថ្ងៃនេះគឺឲ្យខាងប្រធាននិងក្រុមគណៈសំទោសគណៈកម្មាធិការបញ្ជាក់ថាគេយកស្របតាមការបដិសេធមួយនេះ
Mr. Griffin?
Mr. Pincus.
Thank you, Ms. Curley. Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Let the
Mr. Pincus,
interpreter-
in short, my argument is essentially and largely procedural in the sense that the city does at this stage carry the burden of showing that there were in fact violations, that either something was paid or not paid, and that there is a record of these violations.
Okay, let the interpreter.
អញ្ចឹងការតួនឹងប្រឆាំងរបស់ខ្ញុំថ្ងៃនេះគឺតកតងនឹងដំណើរការថ្ងៃនេះគឺខាងរដ្ឋសំទោសខាងទីក្រុងពិតជាមានទំនួលខុសត្រូវដើម្បីយកភស្តុតាងមកដើម្បីបញ្ជាក់ថាចំនួនមួយនេះពិតជាបានធ្វើខុសនឹងច្បាប់ហើយបានបងផាកពិន័យឬមិនបងផាកពិន័យតែប៉ុណ្ណោះ
Having a custodian of records with all due respect that says this is what I was told, this is what I saw without producing the actual records that do exist. So it's not a question that they do not exist. They do exist.
Okay,
And
let the interpreter, again, I'm trying to give the interpreters some ability to get his job
អ
done.
ញ្ចឹងយើងយកសាក្សីមកដែលគាត់មានទំនួលខុសត្រូវក្នុងការពិនិត្យកំណត់ត្រាហើយយើងសូមឲ្យគាត់តែបញ្ជាក់នៅអ្វីដែលគាត់បានលើនិងអ្វីដែលគាត់មើលឃើញតែប៉ុណ្ណោះប៉ុន្តែគាត់មិនមែនជាអ្នកដែលសរសេរកំណត់ត្រានិងសរសេរផាកពិន័យទាំងនេះហើយវាពិតជាមានកំណត់ត្រាទាំងនេះប៉ុន្តែគាត់មិនបានសរសេរខ្លួនឯង
And the failure to do so is a violation of the due process rights of an individual at this time.
ដោយគ្មានឬមិនផ្ដល់ឲ្យអ្នកដែលបានជាសាក្សីផ្ទាល់តែម្ដងគឺវាខុសនឹងការដំណើរការនៃសិទ្ធិរបស់ជនជាប់ចោទ
Thank you.
សូមអរគុណ
Thank you for your argument.
បាទអរគុណសម្រាប់ការទាល់របស់លោក
I'm going to ask the board to vote at this point. My vote is city affirmed.
បាទអញ្ចឹងជាទីបញ្ចប់ខ្ញុំសូមឲ្យគណៈកម្មាធិការបោះឆ្នោតអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំបោះឆ្នោតថាយកស្របតាមទីក្រុងថ្ងៃនេះ
City affirmed.
ខ្ញុំក៏យកស្របតាមទីក្រុងថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំក៏យកស្របតាមទីក្រុងថ្ងៃនេះដែរ
City affirm. Steve, I think you're muted.
ទីក្រុងដែរលោក Steve
Mr. Tennant, did you vote?
Yes, I did, Mr. Pincus. City affirmed.
សួរថាលោក Tenant បានបោះឆ្នោតទេគាត់ថាបោះឆ្នោតហើយថាគាត់យកស្របតាមទីក្រុង
That concludes the hearing on the matter. The decision is the city is affirmed on the appeal.
បាទអញ្ចឹងសូមបញ្ចប់នៅការធ្វើសវនកម្មថ្ងៃនេះទាក់ទងនឹងការសម្រេចចិត្តថាការបដិសេធអញ្ញប័ណ្ណរបស់អ្នកស្រីអញ្ចឹងយើងយកស្របតាមទីក្រុង
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. I know you have two other matters, but I think I'm going to go back into the hearing list order of cases, and then we'll get to your matters. If that's okay, and I think, but I could be wrong, that perhaps our court stenographer might like to have a 5-minute or maybe a 7 to 10 minute break. Would that be appropriate?
And Mr. Pincus, not like I'm excited to do it again, but number 29, I also believe requires an interpreter. Luckily not Cambodian, although Nathan did a great job. I think Mr. Levy is on that matter. And can confirm.
The Bengali interpreter is here.
Great, okay.
All right, so let me just see whether our reporter can hang in for one more case with an interpreter, or whether a 7-minute recess might be in order.
Yes, sir, I can hang in. I can hang in for you.
Mr. Pincus, I would think Mr. Gerard can be excused based upon my original comments with regard to my other two clients.
That is fine. That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Gerard, for your work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for using my services. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Your client is excused as well, Mr. Griffin. And I guess the next case, let's hear that one and finish with the interpreter cases. Would you call it on the list, Ms. Alfred?
This is case number 29, appeal number HA-2021-002739 for Veer Oil, Inc. The address is 800 East Washington Lane. They're represented by Roger F. Perry, Esquire.
Okay, Mr. I don't see Mr. Perry. I don't believe, but Mr. Levy, you were here. Is that correct?
I am, and I'm not lost.
Yeah, we have it as Roger F. Perry. Was he once the attorney for this?
He was, and we, at our last listing, Mr. Levy kindly appeared. I can confirm that. I do remember.
So this is you're handling this appeal, Mr. Levy. Is that correct?
Yes, in spite of the city's records, yes.
Okay, well, fine. Let us hear from the city on this matter. This is, let me make sure case, oh, do we have an interpreter?
We do.
I guess I'd like to see the interpreter introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is MD Taki, and I'll be your Bengali interpreter. My ID is RD033. R as in rabbit, D as in David, 033.
Very good. Do you swear, or would you raise your hand, please? The right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will translate from the English to the Bengali and from the Bengali to the English to the best of your ability and accurately and truthfully?
Yes, I swear.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levy, do you have a witness?
Oh, I do. Obviously, I have the defendant.
Would you ask her to be sworn in, please? Let the interpreter interpret what I just said.
আপনারা কি আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? তো আপনাকে জিজ্ঞেস করেছে যে এই মুহূর্তে যারা যারা এখানে আছে, এখানে সবকিছু আমি অনুবাদ করে দিব। আমার নাম হচ্ছে মোহাম্মদ তকি এবং আমি একজন বাংলা অনুবাদক, এবং যা যা কথা হবে আমি মাত্র প্রতিজ্ঞা করলাম যে সব বাংলাতে অনুবাদ করে দিব এবং বাংলা থেকে ইংরেজিতে অনুবাদ করে দিব।
Who is your witness?
He is the owner.
তো আপনাদের বাদী কে?
Okay, the court reporter will need them to spell their names.
Spell your name.
We're having trouble hearing the names and who it is that's responding.
Speak it very slowly.
Mustafizur Rahman.
Say that again, please.
Mr. Interpreter, can you have them spell their names, please?
আপনারা একটু আপনাদের নামটা বানান করে আমাকে বলেন, আমি ওনাদেরকে বলে দিচ্ছি।
আচ্ছা, MOSTAFIZUR space Rahman RAHMAN.
Was that understood?
You please repeat it. Rahman is the first name, I believe, and the last name is.
Let me try, because they wrote it down for me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I have to interrupt again.
Yes,
I have
all
to
right.
ask that each person speak and then the interpreter speak, because you're talking over one another and we're not going to have a clear record without any concerns about understanding.
Thank you.
So the name is Mustafizur Rahman. The first name is M as in mango, O as in orange, S, T as in taxi, A as in apple, F as in frog, I as in ice cream, Z as in zebra, U as in umbrella, R as in rabbit, and space, the last name, R as in rabbit, A as in apple, H as in horse, M as in mango, A as in apple, and N as in Nancy. Mustafizur Rahman.
Thank you. Is there another witness, Mr. Levy?
এখানে আর কেউ কি আছেন যিনি হচ্ছে এখানে উইটনেস হিসাবে আছেন আপনাদের ভিতরে?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the client, I'm sorry.
না নেই চেয়ারম্যান।
And the client is Beer, BEER Oil Incorporated, is that correct? Just
You
a
are
moment.
correct. You're correct, Mr. Chairman.
এবং এখানে যিনি ক্লায়েন্ট আছেন তিনি হচ্ছে এই জায়গার আর কি BEER এর, উনি হচ্ছে এটার সাথে আর কি জড়িত। এদিকে সঠিক, উনি বলেছেন যে এটা সঠিক।
সঠিক।
Yes, it's correct.
Okay. Ms. Curley is handling this case?
তো মিস কার্লি, আপনি কি এই কেসটাকে হ্যান্ডেল করতেছেন বা এই কেসটাকে দেখতেছেন?
Correct.
সঠিক।
Just a side observation that I believe Ms. Heng is still observing, which she's welcome to do, but I just want to make sure that Mr. Griffin, you've explained her case has been determined, decided. Mr. Griffin still there?
তো এখানে একজন আছেন যিনি হচ্ছে কেসটা এখনো এখানে দেখছেন, কিন্তু উনার কেস কিন্তু
I am
মীমাংসা হয়ে
here.
গেছে।
I will try and notify her relative.
তো
You
আমি এখনো
understand?
এখানে আছি এবং এটা দেখার চেষ্টা করছি।
Okay, very good. Let us proceed, Ms. Curley.
I just want to clarify the woman in the background, just if Mr. Levy could just identify who she is. I know she's not a witness.
Would you tell us your name, please?
My name is Sadia Afrin.
And what are you doing here?
Wait a moment, let's start with Ms. Curley, trying to make sure that the record says who's speaking to whom. So the first comment was Ms. Curley.
Neither Ms. Curley nor my client need the interpretation, though.
তো
Everything,
The
under
record
the
needs
law,
to be-
everything has to be interpreted. If there is a language issue, everything has to be interpreted.
তো এখানে সবকিছুই অনুবাদ করতে হবে। তো এখানে যে পিছনে যিনি বসে আছেন, যে যিনি, আপনি কি কোনো সাক্ষী বা আপনার এই কেসের সাথে সম্পর্ক কি?
Mr. Levy?
Would you like to say what you're doing here?
তো আপনি একটু বলবেন যে আপনি এখানে কি করছেন, আমাকে বাংলাতে বলবেন।
আর আমি ওনার বউ।
I work there and I am his wife.
Thank you.
Is she permitted to remain?
Yes,
So, Uni-
yes, it's a public.
উনি কি
hearing.
Thank you.
তো উনি কি এখানে থাকার অনুমতি পেয়েছেন? জি জি, অবশ্যই উনি থাকতে পারবেন, কারণ এটা একটা পাবলিক হিয়ারিং।
Ms. Curley?
So the department, yeah, I have no objection to that. The department's first witness will be Ms. Wilkins, who remains sworn, but I understand if you want to swear her again.
Ms. Wilkins, you've been,
Oh.
sworn. Wait a moment. I'm sorry.
তো এই মিস্টার উইলকিন্স, উনি হচ্ছে এই পুরা কেসের প্রথম সাক্ষী হিসাবে এখানে কাজ করবেন।
Ms. Wilkins, you've been sworn in.
তো মিস্টার উইলকিন্স, আপনি কি এখন এখানে আছেন?
Yes.
Ms. Curley, you may proceed.
And Mr. Takir, I do my best to try to keep my eye, so just if I'm going too fast, please just wave and I'll slow down.
তো আর আমি হচ্ছে চেষ্টা করব আস্তে আস্তে বলার, যদি কোনো কারণে কিছু না বুঝেন অবশ্যই আমাকে মানে হাত এমন এমন করে দেখাবেন। ওকে।
Ms. Wilkins, can you state your name and position again for the record?
মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি কি আপনার নাম এবং আপনি কি করেন সেটা আবার রেকর্ড করার জন্য আমাদেরকে আবার বলবেন।
My name is Jody Wilkins. I am a sanitarian supervisor with the City of Philadelphia Health Department.
তো আমার নাম হচ্ছে জডি উইলকিন্স, আমি হচ্ছে একজন পরিচ্ছন্ন কর্মী হিসাবে কাজ করি এই ফিলাডেলফিয়ার যে সরকার আছে এই জায়গায় আর কি আমি পরিচ্ছন্ন কর্মী হিসাবে আমি কাজ করছি এখানে।
And can you describe what you do for the health department?
এবং আপনি একটু বলবেন যে আপনি এই স্বাস্থ্য মন্ত্রণালয়তে বা স্বাস্থ্য বিভাগে আপনি কি কি কাজ করেন?
I oversee the tobacco retailer permits in the City of Philadelphia for the sale of tobacco and e-cigarette products. That everyone that sells those products need a tobacco retailer permit. And I also oversee the sales of tobacco to minors.
আমরা হচ্ছে এইখানে আমার কাজ হচ্ছে আমি তামাকজাত যত পণ্য আছে সেগুলা আমি এখানে দেখাশোনা করি এবং এখানে কোনো মানে অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্ক কোনো মানুষকে তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রি করা হচ্ছে নাকি এবং এখানে কিভাবে করে বিক্রি করা হয়, কোত্থেকে আসে এবং তামাকজাত পণ্যের ভিতরে সবকিছু ঠিক মতো আর কি লাইসেন্স করা বা এগুলো আছে নাকি সেই ব্যাপারগুলো আমরা এখানে দেখি।
Before you proceed, Ms. Curley,
তো আপনি হচ্ছে মিস কার্লি, আপনি মানে পরের প্রশ্ন করার আগে কিছু কথা বলতে চাই।
I've been reminded by counsel that I should swear the witness in for each separate hearing.
তো আমরা হচ্ছে এইমাত্র কাউন্সিল থেকে আমাদেরকে জানানো হলো যে যারা হচ্ছে এখানে আর কি সাক্ষী আছে তাদের থেকেও কিছু প্রতিজ্ঞা করিয়ে নিতে হবে।
Ms. Wilkins, would you please raise your right hand?
তো মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি আপনার ডান হাতটি উপরে তুলুন।
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you have been giving in this matter and will give in this matter will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
তো মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি কি প্রতিজ্ঞা করছেন যে আপনি এই ব্যাপারে যত কথা বলবেন সব কথা সত্য এবং সকল তথ্য আপনি ঠিকভাবে উপস্থাপন করবেন আপনার মানে সততার সাথে? জি, আমি করব।
Please answer again.
Yes, I do.
জি, আমি করব।
Thank you, Ms. Curley. My apologies.
ধন্যবাদ মিস কার্লি, আমি অত্যন্ত দুঃখিত এটি আগে না করার জন্য।
And Ms. Wilkins, now that you've been sworn, the testimony that you provided about your position and your duties in that position, that would remain the same. Is that correct?
তো মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি তো এতক্ষণ আপনার যা কর্তব্য এবং দায়িত্ব সেটা নিয়ে আপনি এতক্ষণ কিছু কথা বললেন এবং আপনি কিছু প্রতিজ্ঞা করলেন, তো এগুলা তো সব একই রকম থাকবে এবং কোনো পরিবর্তন হবে না এই কথার মাঝখানে, এটা কি সত্য?
That is correct.
এটা সত্য।
And how long have you been doing that? How long have you been working in that position?
তো আপনি এই মানে কাজটা কতদিন ধরে করছেন?
11 years.
11 বছর।
Does your position include reviewing or issuing and reviewing denial of permit of tobacco sales permits?
তো আপনার যে দায়িত্ব তার মধ্যে কি মানে কারা কারা বিক্রি করতে পারবে তামাকজাত পণ্য এইটা পর্যালোচনা করা এবং অনুমতি দেওয়া, এই দুটা জিনিস কি সে দায়িত্বের মধ্যে পড়ে?
Yes, they do.
হ্যাঁ, সেটা আমি দিয়ে থাকি।
And does it include reviewing citation violation notices or CVNs to ensure that the department's denial is done correctly?
আর তার সাথে কি কি মানে মানদণ্ড লঙ্ঘন করা হয়েছে এবং আমাদের যে গণবিভাগ আছে, এই গণবিভাগের যে পরিষদ আছে, সেইখানে যে কি মানে মান লঙ্ঘন করা হয়েছে, সেই যে রিপোর্ট এবং সেটা যে সাইটেশন, সেটা নথি এবং সাইটেশনটা কি আপনি দেওয়ার অধিকার রাখেন?
That is correct.
হ্যাঁ, আমি রাখি এবং তা সত্য।
And are you familiar with the petitioner here, GAN LLC, with the property at 1700 West Allegheny Avenue?
আর আপনি কি এই জায়গায় যেই প্রপার্টির কথা বলা হচ্ছে, যে 1700 ওয়েস্ট অ্যালেগেন অ্যাভিনিউ?
I'm going to object your argument, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, what is your objection?
What is
Mr.
on
Roman.
Allegheny Avenue?
I think Ms. Curley has the wrong case.
তো এখানে অ্যালেগেনি অ্যাভিনিউ বলতে কি বোঝাচ্ছে?
Sorry, that is my fault. That is my fault. Wrong case. Strike that. Absolutely strike that.
সরি, অত্যন্ত দুঃখিত, এটা আমরা একটা ভুল কেস নিয়ে কথা বলছিলাম, অত্যন্ত দুঃখিত, আমাদেরকে ক্ষমা করবেন।
The case, Ms. Curley, which is the subject property?
Ms. Wilkins, are you familiar with the appellant on this case that we are discussing, which is Veer Oil Inc., located at 800 East Washington?
তো মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি কি যে এই যে অয়েল ইঙ্ক নিয়ে যে আমরা কথা বলতেছি, যেটা 800 মানে পশ্চিম ওয়াশিংটনে আর কি অবস্থিত, সেটা নিয়ে কি আপনি অবগত? এই কেসটা নিয়ে কি আপনি অবগত?
Yes, I am.
হ্যাঁ, আমি অবগত।
Thank you, Mr. Levy. I got too excited and moved too far down the list.
অত্যন্ত দুঃখিত মিস জোডি, আমি আসলে খুব বেশি আর কি তাড়াতাড়ি করতে যে আমি অন্য কেসে চলে গিয়েছিলাম।
Ms. Wilkins, I'm going to share my screen.
মিস উইলকিন্স, আমি হচ্ছে এখন আমার স্ক্রিনটা শেয়ার করব।
Ms. Wilkins, do you recognize the document on the screen marked as a City Exhibit 1?
তো মিস উইলকিন্স, এই ডকুমেন্ট যেটা আর কি, যেই কাগজটা দেখানো হচ্ছে এই স্ক্রিনের উপরে, সেটা কি আপনি চিনতে পেরেছেন?
Yes, I do.
হ্যাঁ, আমি চিনতে পেরেছি।
Can you describe to the board the document we're looking at?
তো আপনি একটু এই যে কাগজটা আমরা দেখাচ্ছি, সেটা একটু বোর্ডের সামনে আপনি একটু এটা কি সেটা বলুন।
This is a denial letter for Very Oil Inc. at 800 East Washington Lane for the year 2020.
তো এটা হচ্ছে ভিয়ার অয়েল ইনকের একটা হচ্ছে মানে চিঠি, যেখানে হচ্ছে তারা কোনো কিছু একটা ব্যাপারে অনুমোদিত হয়নি বা অনুমোদন পায়নি, এবং সেটা হলো 800 পশ্চিম ওয়াশিংটনের একটা ঠিকানার মাধ্যমে এই জায়গাটাকে মানে অনুমোদন দেওয়া হয়নি।
And this is dated December 27th, 2019.
এবং এটা কি ডিসেম্বরের 27 তারিখ 2019-এ এটা কি দেওয়া হয়েছিল?
Yes, that's correct.
হ্যাঁ, এটা সত্য।
And is that your signature at the bottom of this letter?
এবং এই চিঠির নিচে যে মানে সইটা করা হয়েছে, এটা কি আপনার সই?
That is correct.
হ্যাঁ, তা সত্য।
Does this letter recite the reason for the denial of the tobacco retailer permit?
তো আপনার যে তামাকজাত পণ্য এইটাতে বাজারজাতকরণের যেই অনুমতি, সেই অনুমতিটা নতুন ভাবে করতে দেওয়া হয়নি বা অনুমতিটা গৃহীত হয়নি, সেটা সম্পর্কে কি আপনি অবগত এই নথির মাধ্যমে?
Yes, this is a denial of selling tobacco to minors 4 times in 2 years. So this is their denial to let them know that they will not be able to be approved for their 2020 permit.
হ্যাঁ, এটা হচ্ছে 2020 সালে অগ্রাহ্য করা একটি আর কি অনুরোধ, যেখানে আর কি 4টা অপরাধের কারণে এই জিনিসটা করা হয়েছে।
And that area you're referring to, that is the center of the letter with the dates.
তো আর আপনি হচ্ছে এখানে আপনি যে অপরাধগুলোর কথা বললেন, সেগুলা হচ্ছে যে এই চিঠির যে মাঝামাঝি যে অবস্থান সেখানে যে কিছু তারিখ আছে সে তারিখগুলাকে আপনি আর কি ব্যাখ্যা করছেন।
That is correct.
হ্যাঁ, ইহা সত্য।
Asking for the admission of City Exhibit 1.
তো
Admitted.
এবং
I'm sorry.
সিটি এক্সিবিট একের এক দেখানোর জন্য আমি আসলে অনুমতি চাচ্ছি।
It's admitted.
অনুমতি দেওয়া হলো।
And Ms. Wilkins, do you recognize what's now marked as City Exhibit 2?
এবং সিটি এক্সিবিট 2 নম্বরে 2 নম্বর সিটি এক্সিবিটে কি লেখা আছে বা কি দেওয়া আছে এটা কি আপনার মনে পড়ে মিস উইলকিন্স?
Yes, I do.
হ্যাঁ, আমার মনে পড়ে।
What is this?
এটা কি?
This is a tobacco sale to minor that was dated on May 24th, rather, of 2018, for the sale of tobacco to a minor.
এটা হচ্ছে একটা একটা চিঠি বা একটা স্লিপ যেখানে হচ্ছে উল্লেখ করা আছে যে অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্ক কাউকে মে মাসের 24 তারিখ 2018 সালে মানে তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রি করা হয়।
This was issued to the petitioner as indicated, where it says name of violator and in the center there.
এবং এটা কি যিনি বাদী আছেন তাকে যে হচ্ছে এখানে আর কি এটা দেখাশোনা করেন বা এইটা অনুমোদনের দায়িত্বে থাকেন তিনি কি তারা দুজন মিলেই কি এই জিনিসটা এই অভিযুক্তকে প্রেরণ করা হয় সময় মতো ওই সময়তে মানে ওই তারিখে?
That is correct.
হ্যাঁ, এটা সত্য।
And the reason for the violation that appears in the center here where it says citate like fair amount and comments.
তো এইখানে এই মাঝামাঝি এই কাগজের মাঝামাঝিতে যা দেখা যাচ্ছে যে এখানে হচ্ছে যেই কারণবশত এইটা পাঠানো হয় বা যেই কারণবশত এই অভিযোগটা করা হয় সেই কারণটা কি এই জায়গাটায় সঠিক?
Yes, this is a tobacco sale to minor.
হ্যাঁ, এখানে লেখাই আছে কোনো এক অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্কের কাছে তামাকজাত পণ্য সেখানে আর কি বিক্রি করা হয়।
And were you able to determine whether this CVN was paid?
আর আপনি কি এটা জানেন যে এই অর্থ যে জরিমানার যে অর্থ সিবিএন যেটাকে বলা হয় সেটা কি সে অর্থ দেওয়া হয় বা পরিশোধ করা হয়?
Yes, it was paid.
হ্যাঁ, এটা এই জরিমানা পরিশোধ করা হয়।
To your knowledge, was this paid with or without a hearing?
আর এই জরিমানা পরিশোধটার কি কোনো হিয়ারিং এর আওতায় করা হয় নাকি হিয়ারিং ছাড়াই করা হয়?
It was paid without a hearing.
এটা কোনো রকম হিয়ারিং ছাড়াই এটা করা হয়।
Moving on to this violation, do you recognize this?
এর পরের যে আমরা অপরাধটি দেখতে পারবো বা অভিযোগটা দেখতে পারবো এইটা কি আপনার মনে আছে বা মনে পড়ে?
Yes, this is a tobacco sale without ID for the same date of May 24th, 2018.
এটা হলো মে মাসের 24 তারিখ কে একটা হচ্ছে মানে আইডি ছাড়া বা বয়স নির্ধারণ করার জন্য যে আইডি সে আইডি ছাড়া বা পরিচয়পত্র ছাড়া যে তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রয় করা হয় সেটারই।
And again, for this violation, were you able to determine whether it was paid?
আর এই যে অভিযুক্তর জন্য যেই মানে জরিমানাটা করা হয় সেই জরিমানা অর্থ কি প্রদান করা হয়েছে বা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে?
This was paid without a hearing.
হ্যাঁ, এটা পরিশোধ করা হয় এবং কোনো রকম হিয়ারিং ছাড়া।
And this violation, do you recognize this?
আর এখানে আরেকটি অপরাধ দেখা যাচ্ছে, এটা কি আপনার মনে পড়ে?
Yes, this is a tobacco sale to minor dated on August the 21st, 2018.
হ্যাঁ, এইটা হচ্ছে 2018 সালে অগাস্টের 21 তারিখে এটা করা হয় এবং এটা একই কারণে প্রথম কারণের মতোই একই কারণ যে কোনো এক অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্কর কাছে তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রয় করা হয়।
And for this CVN issued to the petitioner for tobacco sales to minors as indicated, were you able to determine whether this was paid?
আর এই যে এই লঙ্ঘন বা এই আইনের যে লঙ্ঘন করা হয়েছে এটার জন্য যে জরিমানা আরোপ করা হয় এই জরিমানার অর্থ কি পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কি হয়নি?
Yes, this was paid without a hearing.
হ্যাঁ, এটা এই জরিমানার অর্থ পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কিন্তু কোনো হিয়ারিং হয়নি।
And again, this CVN?
আর এই যে আরেকটা সিবিএন দেখা যাচ্ছে সেটা
This was a tobacco sale without ID for the same date of August 21st, 2018.
আর এটাও আরেকটা একই তারিখে 21 অগস্ট 2018 সালে এবং এটা হচ্ছে কোন রকম পরিচয়পত্র ছাড়া এই তামাকজাত পণ্য যে আর কি করা হয়েছে মানে বিক্রয় করা হয়েছে।
And for this violation sent to the petitioner for that violation, were you able to determine whether this was paid?
এবং আপনারা কি এটা জানতে পেরেছেন যে কোন রকম শুনানি ছাড়া বা শুনানি দিয়ে এই জরিমানার যে অর্থ সেটা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কি হয়নি?
Yes, this ticket was paid without a hearing.
হ্যাঁ, এই জরিমানা অর্থ পরিশোধ করা হয় কোন রকম শুনানি ছাড়া।
Moving on to this CVN, do you recognize this?
তো আরেকটা সিভিএন দেখা যাচ্ছে এখানে, এটা কি আপনি চিনতে পাচ্ছেন?
Yes, this was for tobacco sale to minor dated 12/17/2018.
হ্যাঁ, এটাও হচ্ছে আপনার প্রথমটা এবং তৃতীয়টার মতো যে এটা হচ্ছে কোনো একজন অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্ককে একই 27 ডিসেম্বর 2018 সালে অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্ককে তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রয় করা হয়।
I've enlarged the date
Yes.
for clarity. Do you wish to revise the date you provided?
Yes, I apologize.
আপনি একটু ঠিকমতো যে তারিখটা আপনি যেটা বলেছেন সে তারিখটা আবার একটু ঠিকমতো বলবেন কি?
Yes, I will revise that as December 27th, 2018.
হ্যাঁ, আমি আবার এটা বলছি ঠিক করে, এটা হলো ডিসেম্বরের 27 তারিখ 2018।
And Ms. Wilkins, were you able to determine whether this CVN was paid?
আর আপনি কি এটা বলতে পারবেন যে এই লঙ্ঘন কোডটা আর কি কোনো মানে এই জরিমানা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কি হয়নি?
Yes, this was paid without a hearing.
হ্যাঁ, এটা পরিশোধ করা হয় কিন্তু কোনো শুনানি হয়নি।
And lastly, we see 2 CVNs on this page. Do you recognize both these CVNs?
আর আমরা এই পেজে দুটো সিভিএন দেখতে পাচ্ছি, আপনি কি দুটো সিভিএন চিনতে পাচ্ছেন?
Yes, these were tobacco sale to minor and tobacco sale without ID dated for February the 15th, 2019.
জি, এটা হচ্ছে আর কি দুটা সিভিএন এবং এখানে হচ্ছে একটা তামাকজাত পণ্য কোনো একজন অপ্রাপ্তবয়স্কের কাছে বিক্রয়ের দণ্ডে দণ্ডিত হয়েছে এবং দ্বিতীয়টা হচ্ছে তামাকজাত পণ্য আপনার কোন রকমের পরিচয়পত্র ছাড়া বিক্রয় করার জন্য যে দণ্ড সে দণ্ডে দণ্ডিত হয়েছে।
And were you able to determine whether these CVNs were paid for those violations?
আর আপনি কি এটা নির্ধারণ করতে পারছেন যে এই সিভিএন গুলার জরিমানা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছিল কি হয়নি?
Yes, it was determined that they paid these also without a hearing.
হ্যাঁ, এই আমি নির্ধারণ করতে পারি যে এই সিভিএন এর জরিমানা গুলা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কিন্তু কোনো শুনানি হয়নি।
And I neglected, these are all to Veer Oil. All of the CVNs we've discussed are to Veer Oil Inc., correct?
আর যতগুলা আর কি সিভিএন আমরা এতক্ষণ কথা বললাম সবগুলা ভিআর অয়েল আইএনসিএ, তাই না?
That is correct.
হ্যাঁ, এটা সত্য।
And based on these determinations, what did the department do pertaining to this petitioner's tobacco retailer permit?
তো এই যে এই জরিমানাগুলো করা হলো বা শাস্তিগুলো দেওয়া হলো, তো এগুলা জায়গায় কি কি পদক্ষেপ গ্রহণ করা হয়েছে এই তামাকজাত পণ্য বাজারজাতকরণ এবং এটাকে নির্ধারণ করার জন্য?
And based on the four violations and the regulation is 3 violations in 2 years. So this had 4 violations in 2 years. We denied the permit for 2020, sorry.
তো 2 বছরে পরপর 2 বছরে 4টা কোড যেহেতু লঙ্ঘন করা হয়েছে, এই কারণে আমরা 2020 সালের এই বিক্রি করার যে আপনার পারমিশন সেটা আর কি আমরা দেইনি।
Just asking for the admission of City Exhibit 2.
আর আমরা এই সিটি এক্সিবিট 2 এর আমরা যেই দেখানো সেটার আর কি অনুমতি চাচ্ছি।
City Exhibit 2 is admitted.
সিটি এক্সিবিট 2 কে অনুমতি দেওয়া হলো দেখানোর জন্য।
And nothing further offer for cross.
এবং এখানে আর কি আমাদের দেখানোর জন্য কিছু নেই।
Thank you, Mr. Levy. Do you have any cross examination?
Just a couple of questions. Thank you.
Hold
Mr.
on,
Chairman.
hold on.
The whole, I couldn't do the whole sentence?
Let him interpret
I said-
after each person speaks, Mr. Levy.
Oh,
Sir, this is the interpreter for, can you just repeat?
yes.
Hello? Sir?
Go ahead, Mr. Levy.
Thank you. All right, some discussion, or I should say, some testimony was offered about your duties. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about your duties. Do you supervise?
Just a moment.
Right,
তো আপনার হচ্ছে যেই সাক্ষী গুলা যে আপনি প্রদান করেছেন, যে সাক্ষ্যগুলো আপনি প্রদান করেছেন, সেই সাক্ষ্যগুলা কথা বলতে যে তার আগে আপনার যে দায়িত্ব এবং কর্তব্য আছে সেই ব্যাপারে আমি আপনাকে দুটো প্রশ্ন করতে চাই।
Go ahead.
do the issuing officers report to you?
যারা হচ্ছে এগুলা অনুমোদন বা প্রদান করে তারা কি আপনার কাছে রিপোর্ট করে?
Yes, they did.
হ্যাঁ, তারা করে।
You are their supervisor?
আপনি কি ওনাদের সুপারভাইজার?
Yes.
জি।
How many are there?
কয়জন আছেন এখানে?
There were 3 or 4 of them at that time. It's so many have come and gone now, but during that period, it was at least 4.
তো এখানে 3-4 জন ছিল তখন কর্মকর্তা, তারা আসা যাওয়া করতো, কিন্তু ওই সময় আমার যতটুকু মনে পড়ে 4 জন।
All right, you earlier testified that you were familiar with 800 East Washington Lane, but you've never been there, right?
তো আপনি একটু আগে সাক্ষ্য দিয়েছেন যে আপনি পশ্চিম ওয়াশিংটন লেন যেটা আছে সেটা আপনি সে জায়গাটা আপনি চিনেন, কিন্তু কখনো আপনি তো সেখানে যাননি, তাই না?
I'm not familiar with that location. I have not been there on my work time, no.
Okay.
আমি আমার সমগ্র কর্মজীবনে আমি ওই জায়গাটিতে যাইনি এবং ওই জায়গাটিকে আমি ঠিক মতো চিনি না।
Do you train the issuing officers?
আপনি কি আপনার যে অফিসাররা আছে বা আপনার যে কর্মকর্তারা আছে তাদেরকে কি আপনি প্রশিক্ষণ দিয়ে থাকেন?
I'm just going to object. I need an offer of proof as to relevance here.
We're talking about,
তো আমি একটু এখানে একটা অভিযোগ করতে চাই, আমি অবজেকশন দিতে চাই যে এটার সাথে আপনি যে প্রশ্নগুলা করছেন তার সাথে এই কেসের আর কি সম্পৃক্ততা কি?
Objection sustained. Mr. Levy, the objection is sustained. I'd like you to proceed with the next question.
মিস্টার লেভি, এই অবজেকশনটা আমি নিচ্ছি না, আপনি আপনার মতো প্রশ্ন করতে থাকেন।
how do they know who to give the ticket to?
তো আপনি কিভাবে করে জানেন যে কাকে টিকিট কখন দিতে হয়?
We have an undercover buyer company called the Health Promotion Council, who are given a list of tobacco retailers throughout the city, and they go undercover to attempt to buy tobacco in our stores, see if they're compliant to the law. So this business was visited by that tobacco team several times and they violated several times.
তো আমরা হচ্ছে একটা
Hold on.
সংগঠন,
Go ahead, Mr. Interpreter.
আমরা হচ্ছে একটা সংগঠন, আমরা হচ্ছে গুপ্তচর হিসেবে কাজ করি এবং আমরা লুকিয়ে লুকিয়ে কিছু মানুষকে ওই কাস্টমার হিসেবে পাঠাই এবং সেখানে দেখি যে সব আইনের সাথে কোনো রকমের মানে আইন ভাঙা হচ্ছে কিনা বা আইন লঙ্ঘন করা হচ্ছে কিনা, এবং সেই সব জায়গায় কোনোভাবে আর কি এটা আমরা নিশ্চিত করে থাকি যে এই জায়গায় কোনো রকম মানে আবেদন করা যায় নাকি বা কি কি আইনের লঙ্ঘন হয়, সেখানে আমরা কিছু লোকজনকে আমরা গুপ্তচর হিসেবে পাঠিয়ে থাকি বিভিন্ন তামাকজাত পণ্য বিক্রি করা কিছু দোকানদারদের কাছে।
Would you please take a look at city's exhibit number 2?
তো আপনারা কি একটু সিটি এক্সিবিট নাম্বার 2টা একটু দেখাবেন বা দেখবেন?
That's the ticket ending in 205-2. Do you have it?
তো ওই টিকেটটা নাম্বার হচ্ছে 205-2। এটা কি আপনাদের কাছে আছে?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
জি, আমার কাছে আছে।
Can you tell who that ticket was left with?
তো আপনি কি একটু বলতে পারবেন এই টিকেটটা কে কে আছে বা এই টিকেটটা কার কাছে আছে?
I'm going to object as to relevance again.
তো আমি এখানে আর কি অবজেক্ট করতেছি এই জায়গাটাতে, কারণ এটার কোনো সম্পৃক্ততা খুঁজে পাচ্ছি না।
Mr. Levy, I'm going to sustain the city because the ticket speaks for itself and
It does not, Mr. Chairman, speak for itself. I'm asking about a name that doesn't appear
Would you
here.
let the interpreter proceed with translating what I've said?
Okay.
মিস্টার লেভি, আমি এই অবজেকশনটাকে আমি গ্রহণ করছি, কারণ হচ্ছে যে এই টিকেটে আসলে লেখাই আছে এই টিকেটে কি কারণে কি করা হয়েছে।
All right, I'm going to modify my answer.
আমি আমার উত্তরটাকে আরেকটু ঠিকমতো বলি।
Ms. Wilkins, do you know who the ticket was delivered to?
মিস উইলকিন্স, আপনি কি জানেন এই টিকেটটা কাকে দেওয়া হয়েছিল?
No, I do not. We do not provide names of, we don't get names of people who we actually serve the ticket to.
না, আমরা জানি না, কারণ আমরা আসলে এই টিকিটগুলো কাকে দেওয়া হয়ে থাকে সেই মানুষগুলোর নাম আমরা গ্রহণ করি না।
Do you prove today that any of these tickets were delivered to anybody in particular?
তা আপনি কি এটা মনে করেন যে এই টিকিটগুলা যে কেউ যে কাউকে দিয়ে দিতে পারে?
Again, objection as to relevance.
I'm going to sustain the objection because the earlier testimony was that the tickets were paid. And under the circumstances, if the tickets were paid, that would be evidence that the appellant somehow or other received the tickets. Let the interpreter reply.
তো এখানে হচ্ছে আমি একটু বুঝিয়ে বলি, উনি ক্যারোলিন উনি অবজেকশন দিয়েছেন যে এই টিকিটগুলোতে তো এখনই জরিমানা দিয়ে দেওয়া হয়েছে, মানে অর্থ প্রদান করা দেওয়া হয়েছে। তো এখানে হচ্ছে যে রালফ উনি হচ্ছে বলছেন যে হ্যাঁ এই কথাটা সত্য, যেহেতু এখানে প্রমাণ আছে যে টিকিটগুলার যে জরিমানার যে অর্থ সেগুলা পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে কোনো শুনানি ছাড়া। তো এটা প্রমাণ করে যে টিকিটগুলা ঠিক মতো দেওয়া হয়েছে, সঠিক জায়গায় দেওয়া হয়েছে।
What proof do you have with you today that these tickets were paid?
Mr. Levy, I'd like you to proceed with your questioning.
That is my question. It's a brand new question, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to know, in response to her direct testimony, whether she brought any evidence today, whether these tickets were paid. I know what her testimony is, but that is not probative.
তো আপনার কে আমি মিস জোডি আপনাকে প্রশ্ন করতে চাচ্ছি যে এই টিকিটগুলা যে টিকিটের যে অর্থ বা জরিমানা অর্থ পরিশোধ করা হয়েছে সেটার প্রমাণ কোথায় বা সেটার সাক্ষ্য কোথায়?
And in response to the board and to Mr. Levy bears the burden of proof as the appellant in this case to provide documentation. Ms. Wilkins' testimony is what it is.
তো এখানে হচ্ছে যে মিস লেভাই এখানে মিস উইলকিন্স যেটা বলছে, তিনি যেহেতু এই সম্পৃক্ত বিভাগের সাথে আছেন এবং কাজ করেন, তো উনি যেই টা দিয়েছেন, মানে যেই সাক্ষ্য দিয়েছেন সেই সাক্ষ্যটা এই কোর্টে এখানে আর কি থাকবে। এই সাক্ষ্যটা গ্রহণ করা হয়েছে, তাই এটা নিয়ে আর কোনো বাড়তি কথা হবে না।
I'm going to sustain the answer of the city, objecting to the questioning. The tickets have been paid. There was testimony given, and Ms. Wilkins is a record keeper with the health department. Would you proceed with your next question, Mr. Levy?
তো আমি নিজে সাক্ষ্য দিচ্ছি এই কোর্টে যে এখানে হচ্ছে মিস উইলকিন্স উনি হচ্ছে এই টিকিট গুলা দিয়ে থাকেন, উনি এই এগুলা দেখাশোনা করেন এবং উনার কাছে সকল সাক্ষ্য প্রমাণ আছে এই জিনিসটা বিশ্বাস করে, এবং এটাকে এই আদালতে বলেই আমরা আগাতে চাচ্ছি।
Thank you, Mr. Levy.
ধন্যবাদ
Mr.
মিস্টার
Chairman. Nothing further.
Thank you.
ধন্যবাদ মিস্টার, আর কোনো কিছু আমাদের বলার নেই। ধন্যবাদ।
Mr. Levy, do you have a witness?
No.
মিস্টার লেভি, আপনার কাছে কি কোনো সাক্ষী আছে? না, নেই।
Okay. Then I'll ask for argument.
তো তাহলে আমরা এখানে কিছু কথা শুনতে চাচ্ছি যে এখানে আপনাদের কি কি বলার আছে।
Ms. Curley?
So just brief argument. So again, we are here today to determine whether the health department properly denied renewal of a tobacco retail permit for the petitioner in this matter for their use sales history under code section 1.
Please.
তো এখানে হচ্ছে যে আমরা যেটা বলতে যাচ্ছি যে আমাদের স্বাস্থ্য বিভাগ এখানে যে যুক্তি আমরা দেখাতে চাচ্ছি, আমাদের স্বাস্থ্য যে বিভাগ হচ্ছে যে সেকশন 1-এর আন্ডারে বা এটার আওতায় যে কোডটা আছে সেটা অনুযায়ী যে কোনো খুচরা বিক্রির জন্য যে তামাকজাত পণ্য খুচরা বিক্রি ঠিকভাবে আর কি অনুসরণ করার জন্য এই কোডটা করা হয়েছে।
Under code section 1-112, a person who receives a violation has the option to immediately pay that violation, waiving a hearing and admitting to that violation. That is what happened here under 4 different instances with 7 different CVNs.
তো এখানে হচ্ছে যে সেকশন 1-112 আওতায় এখানে আমরা বলে থাকি যে কোনো তামাকজাত পণ্য বাজারজাতকরণ বা যে কোনো বিক্রির জন্য যদি কোনো রকমের আইনের লঙ্ঘন হয় সেইটার জন্য কিছু জরিমানা আরোপ করা হয়, এবং সেই জরিমানাতে আরোপ করার জন্য সেটা যদি পরিশোধিত হয়ে যায় এর অর্থ যে আপনি আপনার দোষ আর কি মেনে নিয়েছেন এবং সেই অনুযায়ী জরিমানাটা করা হয়েছে। এবং এখানেই দেখা যাচ্ছে যে 7টা বিভিন্ন সিভিএন এর মাধ্যমে 4টা সময়ে আপনারা সেই জরিমানাগুলোর অর্থ প্রেরণ করেছেন 4টা তারিখে।
And moreover, that would waive any objections to notice as provided under the code.
আর এখানে কোনো অবজেকশন যদি কোর্টে দেওয়া থাকায় সেটা আসলে এটার বিরুদ্ধে কোনো মানে গ্রহণযোগ্যতা পায়নি।
Additionally, as this is an appeal, it is the petitioner or the appellant's obligation and burden to refute the city's actions. Absolutely no testimony was provided today to refute the city's Mr. Levy or petitioner's counsel instead attacked the process, but provided no actual testimony or documentary evidence to meet their burden under that standard.
কিন্তু এটা যদি আপনি এটার বিরুদ্ধে যদি আপনি কোনো কিছু আপিল করতে চান, সেই আপিলের পরিপ্রেক্ষিতে আপনার কিছু সাক্ষ্য প্রমাণ দেখাতে হবে। এখানে হচ্ছে মিস্টার লেভি উনি হচ্ছে আপনাদের উকিল হিসাবে এখানে ঠিকমতো কোনো রকম সাক্ষ্য প্রমাণ দেখাতে পারিনি, বরঞ্চ উনি হচ্ছে এই যে প্রসিডিওরটা বা এই যে কার্যপ্রণালী সেটার বিরুদ্ধে কথা বলেছেন এবং সেটার বিরুদ্ধে কিছু প্রশ্ন করেছেন যেটা আসলে কোনোভাবেই গ্রহণযোগ্যতা পায় না।
And as while we maintain that notice has been waived, while Mr. Petitioner's counsel again just attacked that the city offers no proof that these CVNs were not delivered to an on-site manager or supervisor as required under the code, but provided no actual evidence that this occurred to refute the city's assertions.
আর উনি যে বলেছেন যে যদিও এই পুরা জিনিসটাকে এই মওকুফ করে দেওয়া হয়েছে কিন্তু তবুও উনি বলেছেন বারবার যে এই সিভিএন গুলা যারা দিয়েছে তারা সঠিক ব্যক্তি না, সঠিকভাবে সিভিএন গুলা দেখানোর পরেও আপনাদেরকে কোর্টে সবার সামনে দেখানোর পরেও উনি বারবার প্রশ্ন করেছেন যে সিভিএন গুলো আসলে কিভাবে দেওয়া হয়েছে এবং কারা দিয়েছে এবং উনি কি এই দায়িত্বে কর্মরত নাকি বা উনার কি অধিকার আছে নাকি সিভিএন গুলা দেওয়ার, যেটা আসলে কোনোভাবেই গ্রহণযোগ্য না।
As such, the health department's actions in denying this permit were appropriate and allowed under the code, and we would ask for a city affirm.
তো আমরা হচ্ছে যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি যে এই আমাদের যে স্বাস্থ্য বিভাগের যে কার্যপ্রণালী সেটার অনুযায়ী আমাদের যে এই সিটি অ্যাফার্মটা আছে সেটা প্রেরণ করা হোক, সেই আবেদন আমরা রাখছি, কারণ আমাদের যুক্তি অনুযায়ী তিনি কোনোভাবেই এখানে কোনো কিছুকে ভুল প্রমাণ করতে পারেনি বা সাক্ষ্য প্রমাণ প্রদান করতে পারেনি।
Thank you, Ms. Curley.
ধন্যবাদ মিস কার্লি।
Mr. Levy, do you have any argument to make?
জনাব লেভি, আপনার কি কোনো যুক্তি আছে এই বিরুদ্ধে?
Nothing further at this time, Mr. Chairman. We thank you for this opportunity to be heard.
না, এই মুহূর্তে আসলে আর কিছু নেই। আপনাদেরকে অত্যন্ত ধন্যবাদ আমাদেরকে শুনানিতে ডাকার জন্য।
Very good. At this point, I would ask the members of the board to vote. My vote is.
তো এই শুনানির এই পর্যায়ে এসে আমরা যে বোর্ড মেম্বাররা আছেন তাদেরকে আমরা আর কি ভোট দিতে বলবো। তো আমার ভোট হচ্ছে,
My vote is city affirmed.
আমার ভোট হচ্ছে সিটি অ্যাফার্ম।
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirm.
Very good. The decision of the board is to affirm the city in the matter, and the appeal has been denied. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
এটার জন্য যে সিদ্ধান্তটি সেটা হচ্ছে যে এই পুরা জিনিসটা সিটিকে দিয়ে দেওয়া হবে এবং এই যে আপিলটা করা হলো সে আপিলটা অনুমোদিত হলো না।
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
ধন্যবাদ।
All right. The next case would be back on the beginning, but I'm willing to go on, but I want to make sure our reporter is holding up okay.
I am. Thank you for asking. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Mr. Pincus, Jake Griffin, can I just, I'll wait for you then.
Wait, I want to thank the interpreter. I believe your services are no longer needed.
Thank you, sir, for using our services. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you very much. I guess I have, Mr. Griffin, you have two more cases, I believe. Is that right?
I do, Mr. Pincus, and I have been back and forth with Ms. Curley, and I'll do whatever the board instructs me to do, but I have a personal matter that I've got to leave like within 20, 25 minutes. Again, you know, Ms. Curley knows the nature of that matter. More than happy to share.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to. We've got Ms. Wilkins here. We've got Ms. Curley here. Let's continue on with your, these are both tobacco cases as well, I believe.
Mr. Pincus, may I also let you know that we are going to lose the witness for case number 17 at 5 o'clock also. I'm not sure if we have a property owner here for that case, so was not sure if that was something we may be able to administratively address before going to the next case.
Well, why don't we do that then? Let us go back on record. Would the appellant's, his name is Enoch Jerome. Enoch Jerome, are you present? Let Ms. Alfred call the case first, please.
This is case number 17, appeal number HA-2021-004245. Appellant is Enoch Jerome. Address is 3618 North Sydenham Street.
Enoch Jerome, are you present, or a representative for Mr. Jerome? Are you present? This case had been listed before, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? The name seems familiar. Is that correct?
I don't know either way.
I'm trying to find out right now.
All right, well, that's fine. Mr. Jerome is not present. The time is 4:29 p.m. And my vote is city affirmed, non-appearance.
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 And I assume that's the relief that the city was requesting in this matter.
It is, thank you.
Yeah, I forgot that part. My apologies. All right, so there's only one other case besides the two tobacco cases that I have not noted on the record, which is case number 7. And let's get the two tobacco cases addressed, okay?
I just want to help.
Don't forget, we still have Mr. Gill on as well.
I'm sorry?
We still have Mr. Gill for number 24. Remember, he wants to be heard.
Yes, Mr. Perez.
Mr. Perez.
Gil Perez.
Is it possible that I need to take a bathroom break before we go to the next one? Is it that this will be the time I could do it before we started the next testimony?
All right, why don't we do that? And then we'll hear case number. Oh, I see, Mr. Perez, I remember, okay. That could be a moment. Let me think for you. We'll take another case in the meantime.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Let us hear case number 7, okay?
Okay. This is case number 7, appeal number HA-2021-002499 for Christopher Daniels. The address is 339 North 63rd Street. And he's represented by Henry Shermer, Jr., Esquire.
Mr. Shermer, I know you were on earlier. Are you here?
Yes, I see him here. He's here.
Okay, and who's representing the city? Mr. Reuter, I think?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Leonard F. Reuter for the city of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So preliminarily, the city would like to raise a number of issues with this case. Number one.
Let me make sure, because I didn't hear from Mr. Shermer. Are you here, Mr. Shermer? Hello?
He is here. I see him on. I don't know if maybe he walked away from his device.
Well,
But he is here.
I see him on my screen. Mr. Shermer, we're calling case number 7. Are you available? 339 North 63rd Street. Well,
Perhaps someone could give Mr. Shermer a call on the telephone. He's probably stepped away.
Mr.
Perhaps-
Reuter, are you able to do that from your post?
I'm not sure I have his number. I'll check.
All right, well, maybe Miss Alford has it in the.
Yeah, I'll try to call him, and he also disappeared off of the Zoom.
Mr. Reuter, your new microphone sounds excellent. I just want to let you know.
It's the same one. I think it's just sometimes the software. Our network gets very bogged down at certain times of the day, and that tends to cut out the audio first.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, your
Yeah.
court reporter is very happy today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was the acting chairman. I guess after we hear this case and I guess there are arguments, then we'll go to the other case, and then we'll go back to the two tobacco cases. Because the other gentleman's been waiting patiently as well. Is Mr. Farnham here on this case, Mr. Reuter?
He is.
I see his name. Okay. We'll wait to see what Miss Alford has.
Mr. Pincus, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Chick Griffin, I'm the one who has these two remaining matters with Miss Curley.
Yes.
And as I told you, I had a matter, and again, I respect the board, but I am a pallbearer tonight in a viewing. And I need to be there by 5:30. And it's going to take me time to get there. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Well,
But,
I understand. Well, under the circumstances, perhaps it might be best if we continued your two cases.
Well,
Because
with
we
all
need
due
to
respect,
give
I'm not going golfing. This is, so however your honor wants to hear it, I respect the call. I'm just saying this is.
No, I understand. I mean, you're not gonna end up, I don't think we're gonna have time to hear both of your cases. If you said you have to leave at what time? 5 o'clock?
Well, I've got to be in Havertown and I'm here in Roxborough, so I've got to get moving fairly quickly.
Well, tell me what time it is you have your end all be all time. What time is?
I'd have to leave in 15 minutes.
I think. under
Mr.
the
Chair, maybe it might be best that we continue his case
I
under
agree.
the circumstance.
I agree. Mr. Griffin, we'll.
Yes.
In the box.
Pardon?
As long as one of us are in the box.
We'll
I missed that,
continue-
Steve.
We'll
That's it.
continue case number, looks like HA 2021-002-612. We'll continue that case, and we'll continue case number HA 2021-002-613, 1700 West Allegheny Avenue.
I appreciate the board's courtesy.
And I just want to say thank you to Miss Wilkins, who made herself available all afternoon for these. Thank you, Miss Wilkins. But I'm sure you also want a break.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you have
Thank
any, do you have any other matters before the board?
Me?
Yes.
Or who you talking to? I do not. That will conclude it for me. And I believe Miss Wilkins as well.
Thank you both. Thank you. Mr.
May I be
Griffin.
excused? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courtesy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins.
So we're
Mr.
back to whether Mr. Shermer has been reached.
I called his office number, I called his cell number, I got no answer on both, and I just sent him an email.
Well, all right, so Mr. Reuter, why don't you hang around for a minute? And why don't we go to as far as I can tell, there's only one other case to be considered, which is number 24, which is Mr. Perez. Are you still here, Mr. Perez? And Ms. Curry, I see.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Perez, are you still with us?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have Mr. Shermer in the waiting room.
Well, I've moved on for the moment to Mr. Perez.
Okay.
Would you call?
I'm still here. I'm on mute. You told me that you wouldn't hear me if I spoke again. Is this?
Well, now you're here and let's call the case, Ms. Alfred.
Yes. This is, give me a second.
Number 24.
Yes, this is case number 24, appeal number HA-2022-001729, Gil V. Perez, and the address is 4733 Salem Street.
Okay, Mr. Perez. We've already heard from the city. Let me make sure you understand what the city's position is. I don't want to deny you an opportunity to be heard by the board, but I want you to understand the board has no jurisdiction over this matter at this time. The city has determined that the violations that were issued in connection with the property, I assume it's your property at 4733 Salem Street, the violations have been corrected. And I assume you know that, and you would be the first one to admit they've been corrected. And under the circumstances, we don't have a violation pending for us to hear at this point in time. But I want to give you an opportunity to speak.
City of New York issued a violation on a false affidavit.
I'm sorry, you have to speak again. I didn't hear clearly what you were saying.
The city of Philadelphia issued the violation on a false affidavit. Whoever signed that violation signed a false statement. They stated that they inspected the premises, that there was a leak, and that it was repaired. There was no inspection of the premises by the city of Philadelphia. They also stated that they turned off the water. The water was not turned off by the city of Philadelphia. Hence, the violation signed and sworn to was false. I then submitted an appeal. I appeared here today and I was spoken to rudely by you, Mr. Pincus. You told me that I would not be heard. You heard the city of Philadelphia. They did not testify under oath, and they allege that this has been cured and that it is moot. It is not moot. The fact that the city of Philadelphia issued a false violation to a homeowner is a serious matter that should be investigated and addressed. That they issued this violation to a Hispanic homeowner is far more serious. This was a violation of the Federal Fair Housing Act. To issue violations of this sort to Hispanic homeowners in Philadelphia, and then to send all notices in English, to have every opportunity that this Hispanic homeowner would be given to address this violation be met with an English-speaking person or hung up on, is particularly odious, and that you, as the board member, have convened this hearing and administered this, this should be reviewed. The ticket should be reviewed, an investigation should be conducted, and I feel a memorandum should be placed in the file to reflect a review of the transcript of this proceeding and the way in which I was spoken to.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. I think I was conducting the hearing appropriately at all times. However, your statement has been recorded. There's a court stenographer. If at any time you want to order a transcript of the hearing, you are welcome to do so. There probably will be a fee. The fact is you seem to speak English quite well and understand everything that has taken place to date. The city says that
That's offensive.
for whatever reason, the city has determined that the violation is no longer in effect. It's been complied. And if you have a concern about the administrative procedure that was carried out by the city, I believe the water department, which is the issuing body, has an inspector general and or has separate counsel, and you can raise your objections to that counsel. This board does not have any jurisdiction at this point in time to hear anything further with respect to this matter. So I just want to ask one further question. How do you know that that an inspection was not conducted, sir?
Because the premises are locked. I was the only person with the key.
Yes.
And I was there and corrected the leak before anyone got there other than the gas company. No water personnel entered the premises.
Okay.
And if indeed the city of Philadelphia maintains that somebody did, who is this person? Let's bring him down.
Okay.
And one other point.
Yes, sir.
I did listen to the proceedings in 4032. I would like to order the transcript for this, that, and the opening proceedings in which I was treated rudely. How do I order them?
Well, after this hearing, you may call the administrative office for this board, and they will give you information about how to proceed.
And I have the phone number.
Or Miss, is it, I don't know, Ms. Alford, are you able to give him information about ordering the transcript, or Ms. Curry, would you have to get that information?
Normally, you get the information from the court reporter.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know why Mr. Perez believes that he is entitled to the transcript for case number HA 2021-004032. Is that simply because the appellant happens to be of Latino origin? Not origin, that's not the right word, but have a Spanish name or be designated as Latino? Why would you be entitled to that transcript? You are not a party to that action. So you have no entitlement to that transcript. I beg your pardon?
I said I'm a member of the public and this is a public proceeding.
That's correct, but, well, I disagree, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe that Mr. Perez has the transcript to all hearings.
I didn't request a
And Mr.
transcript.
Well, I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Transcript
To any
for this
public hearing,
and the
I think
hearing
that
of
Mr.
another
Jeff,
Hispanic individual, and I'm very interested as to why you would have a problem with a review of that transcript. My comment
I
is,
just explained to you, Mr. Perez, that I do not believe, as the fact that you are not a party to the matter means that you are not entitled to the transcript. I don't believe that your ethnicity and that of the other appellant entitles you to a copy of the transcript. That's my objection.
well, I, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund probably will differ with you.
Well, fine, Mr. Perez, if I may, the matter is, these are public hearings, and if a formal appeal is taken, then the party is entitled to obtain a transcript in the course of taking their appeal. There customarily is a fee that is charged for the court reporter to produce a written, or I don't know whether they do an oral, but whatever transcript they produce, there's a fee, and you would be asked to pay that. I
am glad to pay the fee.
And I can't determine whether or not there is a reason to withhold providing you with a copy of a transcript of your hearing or any other hearing today. But if that's what you want, I'm going to suggest, because we have separate counsel for our board, and the city has separate counsel, and they will determine whether or not you are entitled to receive that transcript.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with you. Let's go on to the next case, please.
So he would like a number to contact. Would that be you, Ms. Alford?
Yes, I can give it to him in the chat if he likes.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's
Thank
go
you,
on with the
Mr.
next
Pro-
case, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Miss Alford is sending you in chat the number to contact. I think you've been
Hasn't arrived
treated.
yet.
I'm speaking now. I think you've had an opportunity to speak. You've been treated very fairly by this board, and this case is now ended. We will proceed to the next case. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes my matters before the board. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. Curry.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, we're on to case number 7, I believe it is.
Yes.
Okay,
This is case number 7, appeal number HA-2021-002499 for Christopher Daniels. The address is 339 North 63rd Street, represented by Henry Shermer Jr. Esquire.
okay. Let's proceed with that case. Mr. Shermer, you're back with us, I presume?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And
Okay, let's hear from Mr. Reuter because I believe he has a question about the standing to pursue this matter.
and this will probably be one of the cases where Mr. Reuter and I mostly agree about something. I always like Len's approach.
Well, before you proceed, Mr. Shermer, I don't know about our court reporter, but I certainly am having some difficulty hearing everything you're saying. So
I can hear him, but it is difficult. If he can improve that would be good.
let him correct that, and then we'll get Mr. Reuter, who I believe was still with us. I'm looking for his name. Did we lose him?
I just let him in the waiting room again. I don't know where he went. He must
Okay,
be having
this
some type of difficulty.
okay, this should be better.
Okay, now let's find Mr. Reuter. We seem to be, this is one of those days.
That's okay. I know that you called the case, and unfortunately my screensaver kicked on, would not kick off, so I had to restart the entire computer. So I missed everything for the last couple of minutes. I guess Len has the same thing, so
Excuse me.
maybe.
I apologize. This is Maggie White for the city of Philadelphia. Mr. Reuter's computer was rebooting. I think similar issues to what Mr. Shermer was just talking about. He is logging back in and he should be on shortly.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Ms. White. Let's hold on for a minute. I think this is the last case that we have to hear. Is that correct, Ms. Alford?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I can guarantee this will be the last and the weirdest.
Oh, we've had our.
I don't know about that.
Shouldn't laugh out loud.
Off the record, Mr. Pettit, I appreciate your admonitions. You're muted.
I have little patience sometimes, Ralph.
What? So do I.
Sometimes a little bit of patience.
And off the record as well, I do apologize to the board. I was in error indicating that Mr. Perez was not entitled to the transcripts. It just seemed that the issue that he was raising was not really relevant. And in light of the fact that the appellant wasn't even present.
I appreciate all of what you're saying, and forgive me for interrupting, but the recording is still running.
Let's resume. Let us go back on the record. Ms. Alford, would you call case number 7, please?
This is, you want me to call it on the record again? Okay.
Yes, let's, since we went off.
Okay, case number 7, appeal number HA-2021-002499. Christopher Daniels for 339 North 63rd Street. Attorney is Henry Shermer Jr. Esquire.
All right, Mr. Reuter, let us hear from you and the city's, I understand, position in this matter as to whether we should be hearing this case today.
Yeah, first of all, there's a couple of preliminary objections we would make. And initially, just to preserve the record, we would challenge the standing of Christopher Daniels to even bring any of these appeals. As I indicated, there were 3, perhaps 4 separate appeals that were filed involving the same matter or the same action by L&I, which was the issuance of a demolition permit for the property at 339 North 63rd Street. So again, Mr. Daniels, as far as we understand, doesn't live anywhere near the subject premises. I would note he does not even appear to be in attendance today. Therefore, we're deprived of an opportunity to even voir dire his standing. So that be number one. Number two, this matter had originally, I believe, been discussed by the board initially in the context of hearing argument about whether or not it constituted an emergency for purposes of an expedited hearing. And at that time, the board determined that it was not an emergency because demolition had already commenced by the time the case came up. And then thirdly, as of now, in fact, as of August of 2021, the demolition was completed. There is nothing left at this site, and therefore any appeals from the validity of the demolition permit at this point are moot. This board does not have equitable powers, can't exercise equitable powers with the exception of, things that L&I has under its control, such as extending, the amount of days to comply a violation or something like that. But beyond those powers that are inherent to the Department of Licenses and Inspections, you don't have equitable powers. Therefore, you can't make advisory rulings or give an opinion about something, that may or may not ever come up again in the future. So in this instance, we would say A, no standing, B, it was moot. It's a moot case because the property has been demolished. The property in question has been demolished. And C, with respect to establishing any kind of determination about what the authority of L&I might be in a case like this, or what the authority of the Historical Commission might be in a case like this, you don't have the authority to make those kinds of decisions. You can hear cases that are actually in controversy, and this isn't one of those. So that's just the preliminaries. If you want to hear more about the details, I do have Dr. Farnham here, who would, I guess that's right. Dr. Farnham's mostly here for sort of the fourth objection we have, which is that even if none of those other things that I just said were persuasive to you, the underlying merits of the appeal don't exist. In effect, the appellant is arguing that when the Historical Commission declined to designate this property in 2019, that somehow that decision to not designate the property was done on a conditional basis, and there is no such thing. If the commission says we are not going to designate a property, they relinquish all jurisdiction over it. Even if they might want to perhaps consider another nomination in the future, that particular thing that was before them is over. That decision to not designate was not appealed, leaving aside the fact that it's our position that a non-designation is not appealable by anybody anyway. But even if that were an issue, it wasn't appealed. So basically, when the commission made its decision to not designate the property, that was the end of any jurisdiction they might have had over it, unless and until another nomination came in, which in this case never happened. So so that's 4 reasons. Take your pick. No standing, moot, board doesn't have equitable authority to decide a moot case or offer an advisory opinion, and B, the underlying, there's 4, what is that, D, the underlying merits of the appeal are non-existent. So, but like I said, I have Dr. Farnham here. If you want to hear any more about the case, I can just give a very quick offer of proof that It involves a property that was a church, part of a larger complex that I think goes from 337 or something like that, 335, I think, to 339. It is a school for young disadvantaged males. There was a nomination to designate the church portion of the property that was considered by the Historical Commission, which again ultimately decided against designating the property. There was some discussion at the time that the church wanted to make
Well,
alterations.
Mr. Reuter, if I may, I think you've raised 4 arguments. The appellant is not here. So we have in front of us, I think, only an issue of legal arguments. You've raised what I consider to be quite sufficient arguments that the matter is not appropriate for consideration by the board at this time. So since Mr. Shermer is an experienced attorney, having been before this board once or twice or a few times more in the past, I would like to know what his arguments are in response to your positions that you've made. There is no witness as I understand it. So this is not a matter to be heard on the merits today. The only issue is whether or not we have any jurisdiction to hear anything with respect to this matter. So, Mr. Shermer, am I correct, Mr. Reuter, in proceeding this way at this point?
I believe so. Again, I think the only potential factual issues are the dates of the date that the commission denied designation, the date that the permit was issued, and the date that the demolition was completed. And again, I can have Dr. Barham testify about those points, but I don't think Mr. Sherman's going to dispute the dates.
Those dates aren't at issue at this point in time because one, his client is a question of whether there's any basis to hear the case because of the standing of the client, and the property has been demolished. Mr. Shermer, do you have any arguments to respond to the positions raised by Mr. Reuter as to why we should hear this case?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Essentially, this started out as an emergency appeal to try to keep a church from being torn down. Essentially, it breaks down. There are 2 parallel appeals. We had 3 arguments. One is the Historical Commission actions in designating the church and saying, we know that the church meets the merits of designation, but we are not going to actually designate it because we've heard that the person is going to help fix up the church. Over the last several meetings and occasionally it's come up.
If I may, Mr. Shermer, before you continue to testify. All right, we have no one here other than you making these statements.
And
if I may, what Mr. Reuter has said is not specific facts as to what has happened before the Historical Commission or with respect to any other aspects of this of LNI's or the Historical Commission's actions. What he said is, 1, the appellant doesn't live near the property and doesn't have any standing to proceed with the matter. He said, number 2, the building has been demolished. So there's nothing we can do about the historical, I'm not saying that may not be the correct word. We can't do anything about a building that isn't there any longer. So there is nothing we can do to determine that there was, is or was something that we as a board can provide a remedy for. So I don't need to hear from you with respect to the factual matter, because that's what a witness would do. So if you have some legal argument as to why this board should be hearing this appeal at this time, please tell me and tell us as the members of the board.
I should have started with that first. I'm sorry. This keeps happening. This is a structural flaw. It keeps getting repeated, and we keep losing churches in West Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, and South Philadelphia because of the way that LNI administers things. The actual applicant, Mr. Chris Daniels, is a member of the RCO. He was on the meeting with, I think it was the board of LNI, the City Council Board of LNI Review, and I will if the board would permit me, would hold the record open for 2 weeks, I would submit, or I will find and submit, the Historical Commission video and transcripts, and also the City of Philadelphia City Council Committee on L&I references where Councilman Curtis Jones had Mr. Daniels and the neighbors of the RCO, which Mr. Daniels is part of, talking about how this keeps happening. This is a problem that keeps getting repeated, and we need to fix this. So this is more at this point about a structural problem of L&I does not notify neighbors of demolition. This is a change that came about 2015. The argument is that Mr. Daniels was a former parishioner of the property. He was a member of the RCO that was part of the property. He attended the meetings. He was there on, I believe, on the Historical Commission notes. He's been involved with that, and also with City Council when Councilman Jones said, yeah, we need to stop doing this because we have a situation, and I'll try to find the information because I know that this is somewhat testifying. It's part of the public meetings by the City Council Committee on L&I. It's part of the Historical Commission discussion that maybe we should actually get the promise that we're not going to demolish the property in writing if we decide not to demolish the property. Because our argument,
Mr. Shermer, before you proceed, I'm familiar with RCOs. I happen to chair a zoning committee in this for a community in the city of Philadelphia. So I'm familiar with the RCO process. In fact, we have and with the Civic Design Review Committee process. So before you proceed, it seems to me if you are concerned that there is a defective procedure within the city in the way that either the Department of Licenses and Inspections acts, or with respect to how the Historical Commission acts, it would seem that those bodies would be the appropriate place. It's a city council ordinance. I believe you would have to bring some sort of action against the city alleging that they're not complying with their own ordinances or statutes or ordinances that are issued by the city with respect to the operation of the Historical Commission. And or with respect to the operation of the Department of Licenses and Inspection. I don't know that we can hear a matter where there hasn't been a violation or a direct appeal from an action or a hearing matter that the Historical Commission had. And from what I've been told or what I've heard already from Mr. Reuter, there was a denial of a designation several years ago, and there is no pending Historical Commission action that's been taken from which an appeal can or should have been lodged at this point in time. So I don't know that we should hear this matter, and that your remedy your appropriate remedy is to challenge the city ordinances, which what I'm hearing, you don't consider they provide a fair procedure regarding the demolition of properties. And I live in a historic neighborhood. I live in Mount Airy. Mr. Farnham is a neighbor of mine, as a matter of fact, and his house may even be older than mine. So I'm very sensitive to historic properties and protecting them. But we also have to be sensitive to the procedures that are involved. And I don't hear that there's a matter for this board to take under consideration at this point in time.
well, the Board of L&I Review was constituted in 1957, and your charter, I think it's City Charter 5-1005, says if there is any error in action or effect by L&I, and then later on the Historical Commission was added in. So if there's an error, you are the guys that the public are supposed to go to get due process in order to find and correct errors. I'll skip forward to the third issue that we had requested, which is under the board's own regulations. We had requested under regulation number 2, and then regulation number 2 is upon written request, any person so agrees shall be furnished with a written statement of the reasons for the action of which such party complains. Board of L&I Review regulation number 6, if the person appealing requests a written statement setting forth the reasons for the action complained of in their petition, the board shall take all necessary steps to ensure that such statements shall be furnished. We asked for an explanation 14 months ago, and in June of 2021, and we didn't get it. So we're also asking, as to paraphrase what Mr. Pincus said, that, to L&I, these are recommendations. These aren't actually regulations or rules that they have to follow, even though these are the Board of L&I Review's own regulations. Can we get the guys at L&I to actually follow the Board of L&I's own regulations, which say you have to tell people and give them an explanation when somebody files an appeal, and explain how did you come to this decision so that we can fix a problem, instead of having a problem that repeats and we keep getting kicked out because the building comes down before anybody can fix the problem, and it keeps getting kicked out before the building comes down. Jumping back, because I did mention the first part, which is historical commission, third part, which is regulations. The middle of the sandwich is the second issue, which was, we did appeal to L&I about not following the procedures for posting. That procedure for posting, when you make a challenge to the rules or regulations, you first have to bring it to the zoning board if you want to make a challenge against the code. And in the similar way, it's assumed that you have to make a similar challenge by bringing it first to the Board of L&I Review. Back around prior to about 2015, when somebody applied for a demolition permit, L&I would go put up a sticker that a demo permit has been applied for this property. After 2016, the rules changed, and instead L&I handed the owner a sticker, and the person couldn't demolish the property until 21 days had passed after they had posted the sticker. What happened is every developer got the permit, waited 31 days so that nobody could challenge a defective permit, then put the sticker up, and now we have no way of actually having due process, notice, and an opportunity to be heard in order to challenge demolitions, which is what this appeal was trying to fix. So we're asking that the Board of L&I Review affirm the ability of the Historical Commission to essentially say, yes, city affirmed, but stay of enforcement, which is essentially what we've been arguing. That's what it means when you say the property's historic, but we're not going to designate it because you're going to fix it. I would request the board keep the record open for 2 weeks so that I can find the quotations from a couple of times when that has come up with the Historical Commission. And they have said, yeah, that was sort of a mistake. We shouldn't keep doing that. We need to actually get this written down. If we're going to not designate a property based on promises, we need to get something in writing. And similarly for L&I, that we need to have some process where the neighbors actually get notice during the appeal period so that the neighbors have due process, notice, and a right to be heard to ask, well, wasn't this instituted wrong? And then, like I said, the third part is simply, can the Board of L&I Review actually get L&I to follow the board's own regulations and enforce your own power? Because right now they don't do it. So those are the remaining pieces. Those are the remaining issues for this appeal, and they are not moot because they keep reoccurring.
All right,
We
Mr.
keep losing
Shermer,
properties.
you make your statement. Thank you.
So if I might just respond to a couple of those points.
Briefly.
First of all, I mean, not in any particular order, but the due process question. Again, in order for due process to attach, you have to have some constitutionally protected right at stake, where we can't even identify that the appellant even has standing, i.e. that the appellant is aggrieved at all. We're a long way from establishing that the appellant has any due process rights at stake. So again, that's putting the cart before the horse. We don't even know how the appellant might have standing. The appellant might be a member of the RCO. The appellant might have attended meetings of the Historical Commission, but that's hardly enough to give somebody the special interest required to have standing under William Penn. So that's, again, we could debate that all we want, but at this particular moment, Mr. Daniels is not here, and you can't establish his standing based on a legal argument when there's no facts that that he would be here to put in evidence. So he's not here. He can't put those facts in evidence. So right off the bat, they cannot establish standing, and we would not agree to extending this matter for another 2 weeks. Because again, it's our position. It's frivolous for an appeal. I'm not going to comment on whether Mr. Shermer's arguments might not be better suited for, as you suggest, a city council meeting, maybe another task force, something like that. But if we're talking about disagreements about policy, there's other fora that are pretty well established to deal with that kind of thing. Again, we would suggest city council in particular, and people have always brought this kind of thing to the historical commission's attention by other means now and again. The other issue, I think Mr. Shermer is referring to a situation where a property is designated and the owner comes in with a demolition application claiming hardship or necessary in the public interest. And in some of those cases, yes, the historical commission has placed conditions on the demolition approval. This is for a building that's already designated. They have occasionally put a condition saying the building has, so we want some parts of the building preserved. We want that demolition permit to actually be issued, or we want to know that you have a building permit for new construction, so you don't have a vacant lot sitting there. So that kind of thing, sure. The historical commission has the authority under the code to place conditions on any permit approval, but the historical commission can't place conditions on a denial of a permit, and they certainly can't place any conditions on anything once they've denied even designating the property, because once the property is not designated, it's outside their jurisdiction. And even if there were a situation in the past, which I'm not aware of, but if there is a situation in the past where the commission might have said, gee, we're not going to designate this property, but we hope X, Y, and Z happens, that's just aspirational. There's no real reason to think that the historical commission would retain any authority to do anything on the basis of some, desire they might have. There's plenty of properties the historical commission in its history has declined to designate because the condition of the property was too poor, or because there were already vested rights, or at least, development plans in place that, and had somebody gotten there sooner, maybe those properties could have been saved. Maybe this is one of those properties. It seems like it was. I mean, the denomination came in after the developer had already made it clear that I'm not the developer, but the property owner had, the school for disadvantaged children, had already indicated that they needed to expand their facilities to serve the disadvantaged children and not to preserve a church that had long since functioning as a church for the congregation. I think it had been closed for over 20 years or so, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, this board still doesn't have the authority. We would just want to note for the record that the regulations that were presented by Mr. Shermer, I think attached to his appeal, we have looked into those several times. First of all, I don't think they say anything that's not already in the code anyway, so I don't think we're not challenging what's in them substantively, but we've actually never found that those regulations were ever promulgated. There's no record at the Department of Records of them ever having been posted or anything like that. But that being said, it doesn't matter when the department issues a permit. That is the explanation. You have a permit application that comes in, the permit is ultimately issued. I'm not sure what other explanation the department is supposed to give when they approve a permit. It's like, yeah, here's the application materials. This is the permit. It's by right. That's the explanation. When the historical commission makes its decisions, they're, again, it wasn't clear to me who was supposed to give an explanation of what, but certainly the commission's record was pretty voluminous in terms of what they did here. And as far as LNI, if LNI denies a permit, then maybe sometimes they, need to explain why they denied it to the permit applicant who got the denial. But when we approve a permit, the permit, it speaks for itself that we gave it because we believe the applications met the requirements of the code and it's by right. So I'm not sure what other kind of, if we're asking for a narrative.
I'm prepared
that doesn't
at
have
this
it.
point, having heard your arguments on whether or not we should proceed to hear the matter. And then I'm sure Mr. Shermer has the right to appeal, is that I think we were being a bit generous by allowing both of you to present the argument arguments about whether or not this is a matter that is appropriate for consideration by our board. Because there's an issue of standing, and your client is not here. And based on everything that I've heard, I don't know that there would be a standing that individual has standing under what's considered the court cases out there. And we could have determined whether or not to hear the matter because of the absence of standing. Number one. Number two, there is not a violation. There is not a specific permit that is at issue with it. There is a permit, but the question then is whether the appeal was timely filed with respect to the permit. So at this point in time, our determination, or my determination, is that we'll not hear the appeal. You have the right, if you believe that our actions were inappropriate, to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. You also have the right to challenge the departmental procedures and regulations of the department. We can't overrule department regulations. We can't rule on city code provisions. That's not within our authority. So at this point in time, we've decided not to hear your appeal, and that is the end of the matter, as far as I'm concerned.
No,
Thank you, Mr. Shermer. Thank you, Mr. Reuter.
Mr. Chairman, just respectfully, I would ask if is that going to be a ministerial dismissal of the appeal, or are you voting to deny, would you vote to deny the appeal? And maybe Mr. Jefferson would need to, I mean, I could go, I'm fine either way. I just want the record to be clear.
I think we're going to treat this as a dismissal.
Okay, thank you.
Because I think a denial requires a factual testimony and a formal hearing, and that hasn't occurred. So I'm making a determination as the acting chair to dismiss the appeal in this matter as not having satisfied the necessary requirements to be considered by the board.
And Mr. Chair, you may want to get affirmance from the rest of the board members.
As the board, and that would be my determination to dismiss the matter. I'd like to ask the board members if they concur with my recommendation.
I concur with the chairman.
I concur with the chair.
I concur with the chairman.
I concur with the chair.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
That concludes today's hearings.
And Ms. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit.
Board of License and Inspection Review. Do we need to have an well, let's wait for counsel, unless there's a lot of lawyers here. Do they from the city they can sign off? Do we as a board have a minute to just reconnoiter after everybody is signed off?
I think that